and the executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were myself, Mayor Holly Rogan, Mayor Pro Tem Paula Williams, Trustee David Hammock, Trustee Greg Lowell, Trustee Tanya Dati, Trustee Mark Browning, Attorney Brandon Dittman, Administrator Victoria Simonson, and Town Clerk Dolores Vasquez. Sorry, I lost my place. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I ask that you state your concerns for the record. Thank you, everybody. Now, let's take a break. Should I collect these sheets?
Yeah, if you collect them and destroy them, that'd be good.
Well, they would have to be, because if someone asks questions later. Yeah, it is.
For life.
Okay,
No,
we all ready?
932.
Still need.
Okay.
Okay, good evening, everybody. We called the meeting to order earlier and had an executive session, so we're gonna start tonight with the land acknowledgement, then we'll take a reflective moment of silence. We must acknowledge with respect as non-native people that the land on which we stand, live, and learn is the traditional territory of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho peoples. We also recognize the 48 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that make up the state of Colorado. Thank you, everybody. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Is there a second? Any discussion? Call for the vote.
And that motion passes unanimously.
Thanks, everybody. So now's the time for our audience business. If you are here to speak about any of the second readings that are on our agenda tonight, we'll ask that you wait until those items are called up because they have public hearings attached. If not, and you would like to speak to us, we're happy to have you here. And so the clerk will call your name and then you'll come on up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Everybody will have 4 minutes. And we just ask that you keep your comments pertinent to the business of the town of Lyons and address the board as a whole. And then after everybody has had an opportunity to speak, the board will respond one by one, and then staff will have the opportunity to respond. Go
All
ahead.
right, first we have Kay Sparks, followed by Matt North.
Good evening, Kay Sparks, 2169 Apple Valley Road. This is a quick update from Housing and Human Services Commission. If you remember, I shared that in November we had at our hybrid meeting, we had someone come on and not identify themselves. A community member came forward to me last week to say, hey, I enjoyed your meeting. That was me. And I attended to get some information and I was really impressed with how organized and how much information you have. So there was nothing nefarious about it. I highly suspect this individual didn't know how to unmute. But that's just my idea. And the other thing, just to let you know, is our health insurance enrollment event went well. We had 13 people there. Lots of folks came just for information because it's a rather confusing process. We're going to look maybe next year in September, October to have so you're turning 65 and here's Medicare, which is another interesting Monopoly game. And we'll do it again next year. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Matt North, and then followed by Gil Sparks.
Evening, everyone. Matt North, 539.5 Prospect Street. Wanted to present an opportunity to town to bring a new event and an additional revenue stream. I am a business owner in Boulder. We're an RV manufacturer and service center. And every year there is a expo event that happens throughout the United States called the Adventure Van Expo. It's in the last few years been hosted in Evergreen, Colorado. The event brings in around 3,000 attendees. Household incomes are usually around 400,000 plus per household that usually attends the events. There's about 80 vendors that usually show up. My company, Titan Vans, being one of the vendors that usually has a booth at the event. And the organizer had reached out to some of the vendors, Colorado specific, to try and help find a new location. And my initial thought was to suggest Bone Park as an option for hosting the event. In essence, it would be very similar to kind of the Old Man Winter event, and I've actually reached out to Josh Kravitz to discuss kind of how he puts those events together and get some better understanding of how he operates within that space. But in essence, very similar to that outdoor industry, a lot of opportunity there. There will be point of sales from the vendors, so there would be sales tax revenue, as well as the potential to expose a lot of local individuals in Colorado to lions and bring a demographic that might not otherwise come here. And it does bring people from all over the country, so people travel specifically for these shows. And with DIA, it makes it a pretty easy option to visit. There's other ones that are in Montana, Chattanooga, Tennessee, down in Texas. There's 3 in California, all over, again, kind of the United States. So this will be the only one here in Colorado. There are other expos, if some of you guys are aware of them. The Loveland Overland Expo is a similar event that hosts trucks and motorcycles. It's a big event. That one brings in over 19,000 people for a 2-day event. So this is also a 2-day event. I think I forgot to mention that. So typically hosted on a Saturday, Sunday. Vendors usually come in Friday evening to set up. So while a lot of people have vehicles that they stay in, a lot of people are also looking for housing. So whether it's going to be, you know, the A-Lodge here in town, or Airbnbs from local individuals. So I think that might be my time to.
You have a minute yet?
Okay, another minute. But anyways, yeah, just want to kind of reiterate, I think the opportunity here is also about 2 to 3 years is what they're looking for. Like some form of like contract to be able to have a reoccurring event annually. It will be in July is ideally. They're flexible on dates. Obviously that corresponds with some of the Planet Bluegrass events and 4th of July. So a lot happening in that month already, but looking at the quick calendar, it looks like there are some opportunities probably prior to the start of the Planet Bluegrass or big festivals there. So yeah.
You want to let them know you don't respond?
Yeah, we will respond after everybody's done speaking.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
Sweet.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Gil Sparks, followed by Kara Justice.
Good evening all, Gil Sparks, 2169 Apple Valley Road. Once again here to give you a update on Lions Community Foundation. As you know, we are in the midst of our annual appeal. We have a matching fund available to us of a little over $25,000. We're over halfway there and we've got 2 weeks to go. So we're optimistic that we're going to be able to capture the match this year. And so those of you who have supported us, thank you very much. We're looking forward to another great year. Starting January 1st, we will be transitioning to Longmont Community Foundation as our fiscal sponsor. And one of the principal reasons for that has been the saving in administrative fees. We're saving over 50% in fees that we can then put into the grants and scholarships and benefit the individuals in the community. So we're looking forward to a good relationship. Eric Hospa is the executive director. I will be bringing him here to introduce you after the first of the year, but he has been a breath of fresh air to work with. So just want to keep you updated. Thank you.
Thank you.
And last I have Kara Justice.
Hi trustees and town staff, Kara Justice, 346 Park Street. I'm coming to you because
Oh, sorry.
we had a Dr. Bot meeting at the library and it felt really successful, I think, for a lot of our neighbors. One thing that came out of it was that we should probably create a neighborhood group so that there's not just one spokesperson. So we're working on that, but being that it's the holidays and people are all busy, it's taking some time to coordinate. I also had a dishwasher leak and house remodel and just moved back last week. So like things are a little bit nutty, but we're good. The neighbors really appreciate the open forum and the ability to collaborate with the community leases about event permitting, which I know Victoria is updating you about later. And we're forming a neighborhood group right now. Ryan Chicory and Doug Miller and myself have agreed to be a part of it, and we're looking for more neighborhood members. They couldn't make it tonight, but they send their support. We're working on assigning roles and how that might look in order to talk to town staff, talk to the community leases, be a part of committees. Adrian reached out from Lions Community Farm Project this week about, they are planning to come before you in January to ask for a spigot and orchard expansion. And Glenn is currently out of town for a month, and then I'm traveling for a month, and other people have family, and so goes life. And so being that it's hard to coordinate in the month of December, that people won't be back till about mid-January, we're asking for a bit more time to just organize and establish ourselves. We're in good communication with the community groups. Communication's going well. And we understand that it's in the best interest of everyone that the trees actually stay alive too. So we do want to come up with a solution for that. And so I'm asking for the board's support and giving us a little bit more time. And by that, I mean that refraining from adding any Dr. Bob related items to the Board of Trustee agenda meetings until February. And that's all I have for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna,
Thank you.
I think that was the end of your list, yeah?
Yes, that sure was.
Sorry I didn't get here.
That's
Put on the
okay.
list.
You're fine.
Hello, how are you guys? Good. I'm at 501 Carter Court. And I am here to talk or ask about what we need to do or what we need to talk about to create a holiday in town that we're calling Beyond Word. And so this will be the 5th year of it. And I know that it's not, online and it's like who's in charge and all that stuff. And that's like kind of the beauty of it, right? Because we don't want anybody to be in charge of a holiday because a holiday is created from, it's kind of like they just exist. They're here and anybody can do anything inside of a holiday. You can hang out in your house or you can go to the parade that's going down Main Street. You know what I mean? Like there's more flexibility. And Beyond Word's it's a creative holiday and it's about people creating immersive experiences about being together, right? And we create it every year from nothing. We've had, we've had so many beautiful things happen over the years. People like really getting to be seen and heard authentically in their lives around things like loss and death, and those kinds of spaces naturally kind of emerge in it. A lot of singing, dancing, things in Confluence Square that we had this year, things at the Labyrinth, things at A-Lodge, appreciation ceremonies. But like we get to create it, right? And what's going to be great, is being with each other and being appreciative and having a holiday around that, I think is super, super good for us and we can all get in there. So I want to like start to have that conversation with you guys and like start to get official about it because I'm not very official in the way I do things and I need some partners in it. So thank you.
Thank you, bye. Anybody else? Okay, let's start with trustee Henry.
Gil and Kate, thank you for everything you do, so we say that every week, so it's the town wouldn't be the same.
Not last week. Not last
Excuse me, yeah, I just,
We missed you last.
We weren't sure with that.
Matt, I love the idea. I've been to that expo, I've been to the Overland one last 3 or 4 years, so I think it'd be great in Bowden Park. I think it'd be a great attraction to the town, and the fact it'd be over 2 or 3 years, I think, because people expect continuity in those kind of expos, so I love the idea.
Cool, great, appreciate it. Yeah, I'm glad you've been to this.
Yeah. And Kara, I'm glad, it's awesome to hear the meeting went well, and because I think I was the one pushing, saying, let's just get people to talk. You don't want us sitting up here making decisions like that. I don't want to. So I think, reasonable minds can come to reasonable conclusions. So I'm glad to hear that. And yeah, and I think we can sit tight on any Dr. Bob, which I don't think there's anything in the number. Yeah, so I don't think that's a concern.
It's supposed to be the second meeting of January.
Yeah.
The spigot.
He asked for it for that meeting.
And then 5, I'm not 100% sure what the concept behind Beyond Words, but I think anything that builds community here in town is awesome. So go forth.
Trustee Dasky?
Okay, well, I'm going to echo what trustee Hamrick said, because I also want to show my appreciation and gratitude to Gil and Kay Sparks, who regularly attend these meetings and give us updates. We're really grateful to the Housing and Human Services Commission for initiating the health enrollment conference, 13 people. That's great. I know there's a lot of anxiety around that this time of year. I think today was maybe the deadline. So thank you for doing that. It's a great commission. And Matt, wow, this is exciting news. Thank you for thinking of Lions.
Yeah. Bring whatever we can here, so.
I would love to investigate this further and see if we can accommodate 3,000 people. I'm trying to remember how many people come to the St. Vrain Invitational Cross Country Meet and how many people come to these other big events, like whether it's the races or when we did host, what was that big event in June that we used to host on Bowen Park? With the outdoor games. I'm trying to remember what the numbers were around that.
We could have staff to
2,500.
work
Yeah,
on it.
yeah. And Kara, yes, I was at that meeting at the library and I was really happy to see the dialogue and the open forum and everybody getting a chance to be heard. I don't see any reason why we couldn't wait until February. I don't know if there's an urgency around this matter. But I would love for everybody to feel like there's like space and time. And 5, you know, I wasn't able to attend Beyond Word last year. I was able to help with the preparation for that. I agree with trustee Hamrick that anything that facilitates community, and I'm not sure how it is in the code around municipal holidays and how they are declared, but I feel like this community is really great at creating community. And this sounds to me like a community holiday, is what it sounds like, a holiday to celebrate community and creativity and community. So I think that could also merit further investigation into how do we create holidays in our municipal code. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that.
Thank you.
Trustee Lowell?
Yeah, Matt, I'm really excited about your adventure van event. I think about using the Bone Park, the soccer field, for example, and I think about what it used to look like during outdoor games. It can easily accommodate all sorts of booths and whatnot, but I'm pretty sure this is also gonna be very vehicle intensive.
Yeah.
So you need to have room to stage up vehicles on static display. So, yeah, I think we can accommodate it. I think it would be a wonderful thing for the town.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything to add to, but it's already been said.
Thank you. Trustee Browning?
Nope, I'm very glad to hear that somebody may be interested in an event like that. It was anticipated after the flood, and we spent a lot of federal money on our parks to improve and enhance them, that they would attract more special events than we've had. So I'm glad somebody's interested in it. I would encourage you to pursue that with the town staff. And I'm also very glad to hear that the conference and the residents and the community cooperative SCs are working together, and look forward to seeing the joint proposal, and that's a good thing. Glad to see that progress being made. I think we should be good at that sort of thing in Lions. Thank you, Kara, for all the effort you put in on it.
Trustee Williams?
And Gil, thank you for the updates and for the work behind them. Kara, I also was at the meeting and I thought it was very productive, very positive, and also very candid. I mean, people shared what they were concerned about, and I didn't see a lot of posturing. I saw a lot of solving of the problem collectively and was impressed. Matt and Fi, both really intriguing ideas. I'd love to see both of them come to fruition, and obviously we'll do the things that we can to help develop them and help test them and help air them. And if both of them end up happening and happening with some town sanction, love those.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'll echo what my colleague said, and Gil, a special thanks to you for your service during the holiday parade. Thank you. And Matt, I agree. I think the thing to do would be for you to get with staff and talk about what this could look like and how it could be accommodated potentially, but that's super exciting, and thank you. I had a number of questions that you answered as we kept talking, which is great. So good pitch. Kara, I appreciate that the meeting went great. I'm glad to hear that. In terms of agendas, the town administrator and I set agendas, so we'll have a chat about that. And then I'm a big fan of Beyond Word. And I wonder about a collaboration between you all and the Creative District, the newly formed Creative
I'm
District.
talking to Crystal about it. I
Okay.
started talking to her about it.
Okay, we don't usually do the back. and
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay, just to give you that suggestion. And then Victoria, do you have anything to add?
The only thing I'd like to add is just, since the board sounded really supportive of both of these different projects. Matt, if I can get a contact for you. And, what were you thinking this year or next year? How?
This July is when they're looking.
July
for-
26th.
Correct,
Ah.
they do not have a venue, they lost their venue in Evergreen, so.
Okay, and yeah, so I'd love to get contact so we can get scheduled with you. And we're happy to work too, and I can meet with you and Crystal, or we can have Kim meet and help you with moving forward with Beyond Word. Good.
Thank you, everybody. All right,
Thank
next,
you.
thank you, guys. Next up on the agenda is an update from the Lions Museum.
Thanks.
Yeah. And this is the yearly update.
You can either sit or stand wherever you're more comfortable.
Or try it later.
Jerry, I feel like we should hold up a picture of your mom.
Well, thanks for letting us update you of what we've been doing since we lost our fearless leader. The Lions Historical Society was founded in 1973 with the mission to save the Lions Depot building, which it did. In 1975, they saved the original 1881 school building from the Wreckers Ball and established a three-way lease with the St. Vrain Valley School District, the Town of Lions, and the Lions Historical Society. The lease is renewed every 10 years. The Lions Redstone Museum opened in 1979. In 1980, 15 buildings were designated as the Lions Historic District and are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The tour is available digitally through the Clio app and in brochure form. Over the years, under the direction of Laverne Johnson, there have been multiple campaigns to help fund maintenance of this historic building. The museum is open to the public weekends in May, and then daily from June 1st through the end of September. And then we're also open by appointment in the winter. So you get a hold of Monique Mark and get you taken care of. Our museum board that we put together after Mrs. Laverne left us are me, David Brenstool, Emily Walker, Gail Frankfurt, and Andrew Moore, who's the elementary principal. He replaced Julie Van Donlin since she moved away. So we're lucky there. Our staff is Terry Weir. She's the curator. She grew up in Lions and she's a 36-year employee. Monique Sawyer-Lang. She's a collection manager, and she had a BA in anthropology at the University of Nebraska, MA in historic archaeology, the College of William and Mary. Viva Leonard, MAT Museum Education at George Washington University. We have 8 active volunteers that help with us with various projects. In 2024, they contributed 784 hours, and we expect to at least match that this year. At a minimum wage, the 2024 volunteer hours comes out to 11,600 worth of free labor. So grants that we receive other than from the Town of Lions, who takes care of our museum employee wages, we also receive grants from the Lions Community Foundation. They've been helping us for a long time. Blue Mountain Foundation and SCFD. Now I'll give it to Monique to do her magic.
Thank you, Jerry. So I'm gonna just go over a few of the highlights from this past year. Starting with attendance. Attendance at the museum and its events this year increased over 2024. In this year, we had 1,832 visitors. Whereas last year we had 1,365 visitors, and that's just to the building itself. And so that was an increase of 467 visitors, a 34% increase. So we're pretty excited about that. We also had with our book launch and our book launch in May, History Day in June, we had additional 105 people attend those events. I think one of the big draws to our museum, and I hear it a lot, is that we are free admission, which is a big plus for visitors, especially families, because then it's not a financial hindrance for families to come into the museum. And then we also find that we function sort of as the town visitor center quite a bit, directing people other places in town of where to go, things to do, places to eat, and that sort of stuff. So we had several specific events happen in 2025, starting with the All About Town book launch that was in May. That was the book about Mrs. Laverne Johnson. And then in our History Day was June 28th with featured speakers Julie Smith and Patricia Apifella, and they were promoting the book. We also participated in both the Summer Artisan Fair and the Holiday Artisan Fair, which in addition to being a fundraising event for us, it serves to raise public awareness about the museum and the programs that we had. This year, we also, with a grant that was funded from the Lions Community Foundation, we completed an assessment of every exhibit and space within the museum. We did a detailed examination of everything, and basically it was deciding if something needed to be improved, relocated, taken down temporarily. And we have a binder about this thick now that we're going to work our way through. So that assessment is going to guide future exhibit development and programming. So that was a huge step forward. We did open 2 new exhibits in 2025. We opened Built of Stone, which details the geologic and early history of the quarry industry in Lyons. The Built of Stone was a multi-year project to get finished. It's the largest exhibit we've completed to date. Our second exhibit was the First Peoples of Lyons, which is about the early inhabitants of Lyons, the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute, and it consists of 4 large cases. We did follow the standards that were set for standards for museums with Native American collections that were put forth in 2023. And then, so part of the exhibit contains an original acrylic painting by Native American artist Norman Lansing. We did reach out to the artist and receive permission from him to continue display of his painting. And then the exhibit also includes an extensive timeline of tribal history, identifies numerous artifacts from around the Lyons area, and information regarding the public's role in protecting and preserving the history. Other undertakings at the museum are 2 long-term projects, which is scanning all the archived editions of the Lyons Recorder, and then transferring and updating all the catalog records that are on paper into the museum's digital Past Perfect collection. I am on the middle of 1983, so I'll get there. We have an updated website and a presence on social media platforms, including Instagram and Facebook. We have 4 virtual exhibits and a historic district walking tour that are also accessible through the website. So that way people can do a dive into Lyons history while we're closed over the winter. We still to this day receive lots of donations every year. And a few of the interesting ones that we received this year, if you read last month's Lyons Recorder, we received the revolver and mugshots used in the 1943 filling station robbery. So that was really an interesting addition to our collection. It'll be going into our police exhibit. We also received the 2 big flood signs that were when you first came into town after the flood, the one about Lyons, the Lyons community is now a family, and Lyons will be rebuilt stronger and better. So those we received as a donation. We also received pertaining to the police, a shadow box collection of badges, a collar pin, and sleeve patches that will also go into the police exhibit. This year, we also received several large collections, photograph collections from early Lions families, one of which was the Moomaw family. Jack Moomaw was one of the very first park rangers at Rocky Mountain National Park. And we also received the original 1946 charter for the Lions Club. That's safely in our hands now. So that's just a sprinkling of some of the things that we've got. Our current collaborations around town and with Colorado, we are part of the Colorado tourism programs. This fall, we were on the Mountain Towns Pass program, and then we applied to participate in 3 different programs over the summer. So that is comes out of the Bureau of Tourism in Colorado. So that gets us in on their website, and it's like a gamified passport program. All of these things are, so it gets people have to actually physically come to the building and, you know, get points and stuff. We are a part of the Affinity Network of History Colorado. And so for $1 a year, that lists us on their website. And so that gives greater access to people finding us if you're going up to Rocky Mountain National Park and stuff like that. We also collaborate extensively with the school. Every single student K through 5, 5th grade comes to school at least once, or museum at least once, and they focus on educational programs in line with the district curriculum. And the 4th graders are the museum stewards, and they create a project every year. They come every month. Last year's project, they created the A to Z scavenger hunt. And then this year they're working on a science project that has to deal with the rivers and the ecosystems and stuff that come through town. And so they will be creating an exhibit in the museum for that, an interactive exhibit. Plans for 2026. Our biggest thing that we have is we are moving the 1907 horse-drawn Studebaker mail wagon out of storage, has to be dismantled first, so we need engineers to figure that one out, but it's gonna fit. I know, I got like this much space between the door frame. And so we will be creating a display about the postal history and all of that in line with that. Moving that in also impacted 3 other displays, which we will also be rehabilitating: the Della Burke saddle, the St. Vrain Creamery exhibit, and the Lions Bank teller cage. So the entire back half of that first floor, if anybody's been there, will be completely different next year. And then in the coming year, we're also going to be working with the Lions Creative District on a number of their projects. And we also have a Lions Trivia Night in the works with the Wayback Bar. So, and then we are planning a number of activities to correspond with the commemoration anniversary of Colorado 250 and United States 250, Colorado 150. And then I think Jerry has a couple financials to fill you in on.
So the first half of every year at the museum, we have a lot more expenses than we have income. We have good balances in our checking and savings account to take care of these expenses until the museum opens full time, beginning June 1st to the end of September every year. The timing of our grant funds, other than the town grant for museum employees, usually comes in around the start of the 4th quarter of the year. We received $8,000 from 2 of these grants the first week in October. We also receive a lot of individual Christmas donations in the mail and then also through Colorado Gives. And actually, Julie kind of got us set up on Colorado Gives, so that helps too. We topped the year off with our biggest fundraiser at the Holiday Artisan Market put on by the town of Lyons. Thanks to Lisa, Kim, and their crew for all their hard work. Some of our major projects, we spent $9,100 to repair our fire sprinkler system. They had to do a temporary fix, and then we had to wait 6 weeks for replacement parts for this old sprinkler system up there. So I'm sure that's the same sprinkler system that was there when I was in 7th and 8th grade on the 2nd floor. Also removed 8 radiators from the 2nd floor of the museum. We put a new metal roof on the museum storage shed, thanks to the leadership of Dave Brendenstool. It's nice to have a good handyman. And then we replaced at least 24 burned out tube lights throughout the museum. So things are brightening up there. We updated our bylaws to replace the 1974 lost bylaws that were miraculously found in mom's tax room down at her Abbott Street house. So I go down there 2 to 3 hours a day sorting through hundreds of boxes, but you never know what you're gonna find. So it's worth going through because I find lots of treasures. We had the insurances we have workers comp, business owner insurance through Chubb. Then we have museum contents insurance. We actually doubled that to 200,000 because we have some pretty valuable displays, especially the Della Burke saddle. That's one of them. And there's this new plastic saddle museum in Wyoming. And he started offering mom like $1,000 to get this plastic Della Burke saddle. So there's only 300 or 400 made. So the latest offer was $20K. We're not doing it. Mom would haunt me forever. We have tax exempt accounts set up through Home Depot, Walmart, and Ace Hardware. Oh, I also want to mention that Julie, she also convinced us to get the directors and officers insurance, just in case. Technical upgrades, Monique and Brianna Hoyt, who used to work for the town, they set up Square so we can now take credit cards. And then Max Lang, he set us up a QR code that is linked to the Colorado Gives page, and that QR code is on our brochures and also on our museum donation box. And then we also, it's a good thing we have some technology people because I just hate it. So Steve Lang and Dave Grenzel were good giving us technical assistance. And then we also got working with Scope Accounting to take over keeping track of our finances. We have been doing that for decades manually, so it's still kind of a work in progress trying to match my chart of accounts with Scope Accounting. And so we're online so she can go through and see the checks that have cleared and deposits that have been cleared. So we're gonna get that coordinated so that I understand what she's doing and she understands what I'm doing. So that's Julie at Scope Accounting. She's really good. We also received some contributions from Lions businesses to get free internet from Lions Communications. We also had a partnership with Oscar Blues. We did a fundraiser on July 23rd this year, which would have been Mrs. Laverne's 98th birthday, and we received 10% of the sales. So the good thing, we had great timing because that was just before a weekend of one of the Planet Bluegrass festivals. So timing is everything. Then Steve McCain, he took down and hauled the Main Street soda fountain sign to the museum in his loader on April 18, 2022. And then us volunteers then carried it up to the second floor of the museum to display. When I got home, I woke my mother up and showed her a picture of the soda fountain in the museum. She smiled and went back to sleep, but she had been very tired for a couple of weeks. And
We all miss your mom, Jerry.
Yeah.
We really do.
You're so cool.
and then that night we took her to the hospital. Hoping that she just had an infection. The High Street Lions Cafe sign was donated to the museum from the family of Marguerite Peoples, who ran that business for 40 years on the High Street. Mr. Laverne nominated her for the Boulder County Business Hall of Fame, and Marguerite was easily selected. There was a fancy dinner honoring those selected, and I don't know who had more fun, Marguerite or Mrs. Laverne. The 10-year lease agreement between the Lions Historical Society, the Town of Lyons, and the St. Green Valley School District is up for renewal. The current lease agreement expires 5/1/27. This will hopefully be our 6th 10-year lease agreement. Mr. Laverne signed this agreement in 77, 87, 97, 2007, and 2017. The Lyons Historical Society is very thankful.
Sure, would you like me to finish?
Nope.
Okay.
To the Town of Lyons for their grant for museum employee wages over many years. The monies we receive from other grants, individual donations, gift shop sales, book sales, fundraisers, and museum yard barn sales. So I call them yard barn sales because barnyard sales doesn't really sound too good. And so that helps us with our utilities, insurance, maintenance, repairs, fire alarm detection, accounting, advertising, supplies, dues and subscriptions, displays, technology updates, etc. Thank you very much for helping to keep my mother's dream of a town museum alive and kicking, as she often would say. My mother was famous for her museum garage sales. She and the Historical Society ran a garage sale out of an actual garage that was behind what is now Mojo's for 8 years to keep the museum going in the early years. She was also able to obtain a grant from the Colorado Historical Society to fund half of a $200,000 plus museum renovation in 2009. The other half was split between the Town of Lyons, the St. Green Valley School District, and the Lyons Historical Society through many fundraisers, and of course, museum garage sales. The family of Mrs. Laverne, Mr. and Mrs. Laverne donated 2 15-inch bronze statues of Mrs. Laverne to the Lyons High School and the Lyons Redstone Museum. They are a replica of the original one that's standing outside of what I like to call Johnson's Corner. So that luggage cart out there, Dad had donated that. And he had found that at an estate sale, and it's I'm told it's an exact replica of the luggage, the baggage carts that they used to unload the trains going to Meadow Park. I mean Laverne Johnson Park. We are more than happy to give the town board a tour of the Lyons Redstone Museum, either as a group or individual. Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you. May I say that we look forward to this update every year. Thank you so, so much. It was absolutely delightful, and we would love a tour.
We would love a tour.
Good. You can make an appointment.
Summer, when we have the back half done.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
We'll
Y'all
come
have
see
a lot
the
of work
nail
to do
wagon.
this winter. Thank you. All right, let's move on to staff reports. Boulder County Sheriff's Office, you're not here.
I did not hear that they weren't.
He did send an email that he was going home with a bad migraine.
Oh, no.
And Sharon McKim's the only one on duty, so she wouldn't be able to come in. But he wanted to give a shout out to town staff for the parade, that things went well, and everything else in town was status quo.
Do you have anything to add? Okay, well then I would like to make the public request that I make every second meeting in December. Which is that if the Boulder County Sheriff should see a heavyset man in a red hat and a big white beard speeding through town, that instead of stopping them for a ticket, he offers an escort. So if you could relay that. Sheriff.
Get that?
Thank you. All right, then administrators report, please.
Thank you. In my administrator's report, I did have updates on the Ewald project. It is pretty well coming to a close, and they're trying to clean up the lot down at, on Prospect. Some of which we may with this really dry weather. I don't know if they're gonna be able to reseed now. Usually it's good to do it this time of year with moisture coming, but the forecast is not looking like that, so I'm not sure what they're gonna do there, but we will hold them accountable to put it back as close as they found it. Second Avenue, they've started the work on the right-of-way researching and utility data collecting so they can put together good maps. And then the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment requires a lead service line inspection. And we had a voluntary survey for households, and then they come in and do a random check of lines, and they did not find any in lines so far. So we've been doing a great job with that. This CDOT 80 curb replacement is intense and looks like it's going to continue for a while yet. Right now, they're out on US 36 in McConnell Stone Canyon, and then they will be starting on Highway 7. So continues, but I'm just glad it's now and not in the summer. So we'll take it. The Parade of Lights, once again, we had a wonderful turnout for that. Everything was safe. There was no reports of any incidents or injuries, so that's great. The artisan market brought in almost 2,000 shoppers over those 2 days. And we want to thank the Garden Club for serving hot chocolate and donations going to Leaf. So that all went well. The next big event we'll be planning for is Old Man Winter by Grace, and they are going to be adding a half marathon.
Oh, wow.
And working with Boulder County to run up Apple Valley, so to add to that, so
Is that in March or February?
February.
No.
Yeah. Under my community development updates, there was an update about the Dr. Bob meeting and the notes from the staff perspective on what was agreed, you know, kind of coming to consensus at that point. We are planning to continue to meet as need be with their group as they get that formed. There was kind of a request to wait till after the holidays and till people are back and situated. But it also sounded like several of the items they want to talk about are not only about the nonprofits using those few lots, but rather overall use of the confluence area moving forward. So we are seeking some direction on how the board wants to follow up, since we do have an adopted plan. And but it up to you, but it sounds to me after tonight and listening to your comments that you're okay with waiting till February and revisiting this once they're more formalized and our plates aren't quite so full. Ballot questions. It is that time of year that our town clerk is getting ready to put together an April election. And as part of that, you will recall that during your budget workshop a couple months ago, we had a discussion about our sales tax and use tax as revenue sources for the town. And it came to light that the use tax rate is not the same as our sales tax rate. And there was a discussion that we should talk about it. And do we want to put a question on the April ballot regarding increasing the use tax to match the sales tax? So tonight, if we want to make an April ballot, we would need to introduce that topic in the form of an ordinance in January. So we would have a first reading, second reading, public hearing, and then the 30 days before it would be considered. So the staff is just needing direction on whether you want us to draft an ordinance for consideration and discussion, or if there has been a lack of interest in talking about that since our budget meeting.
Can I ask if we wanted to have a workshop before our first reading in the
Sure.
first week in January,
Sure.
maybe we could do that.
There is room on the January 5th agenda if you want to have a workshop on this. And we would still have time, I believe, if we had first reading January 20th and second reading the 1st of February.
We could still do first reading.
That night?
First,
That
yeah.
night.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, if you want to put them both on, if you decide,
What do we think?
but there is room for a workshop.
Okay.
I'd like to add one more bit of information based on what question I asked to, Finance Director Eystone this week.
Mhm,
And that is a question of exactly who pays the use tax.
yes,
And year in, year out, special large construction projects accepted, and there haven't been very many of those, but in the last 2 years, according to Finance Director Eystone, in 1 year, 80% of the use tax came from vehicle sales in other towns that are put to use in Lyons, and the other year it was 81%. So what we're mostly talking about here, if we're talking about raising use tax, is raising by 1% the tax that Lyons residents would pay on new vehicles that they bought. I'll just go ahead and say my personal opinion is I'm not interested in raising vehicle taxes on Lyons residents. This is be a tax mostly on locals, not out of towners. And I think it's very important if we're gonna discuss this to understand who we're talking about paying the tax.
So if we have a workshop, then maybe we could get some historical data.
sure. Yeah, we didn't want to move forward and spend time until we knew if the board still wanted to discuss that, but it was during budget and something that was brought up to talk about.
My one trustee opinion is no, we shouldn't pursue this. But others may differ.
Others' opinions?
Yeah, I would like to investigate further and look at some historical data. It sounds like this is something that a lot of municipalities align with their sales tax.
That would be interesting too, to see during a workshop is data from other municipalities.
Sure.
Use tax relative to sales tax.
Yeah.
Trustee Hammer?
No, I agree. I think we should look at the data to see what the potential revenue impact is and then make a decision.
Trustee Lowe?
Yeah, I based on the information that trustee Browning has come forward with, I'm not in favor of it, because if 80% of the use tax is being paid by people who are purchasing automobiles, new or used, we still have to pay the tax. I wouldn't be interested in raising that. It's dissimilar from the sales tax, and that I think a lot of the sales tax that we get are from visitors to the community, so it's not paid by the residents. This, on the other hand, is largely paid by the residents.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I'm in favor of having a workshop discussing.
Trustee Williams?
I think it's worth having the workshop. It sounds like it's a combination of these vehicle taxes and taxes paid by property owners when they improve property and buy materials or buy modules or buy pieces that aren't necessarily purchased in town, but that are installed in town.
So it sounds like then we'll have a workshop. Trustee Hammer?
I was just gonna add, could we also get projected data on
Yes,
hotel and the
yes.
animal store? just so
Because, yes,
we see
the
what
year
that
that
looks like.
the year it was 80%, we had very little, if any,
Oh, of course, but
construction. And as you know from our assessed values, and that is pretty indicative. So with new construction plan, that number would probably shift.
and that's why it'd be interesting to see whatever that potential dollar amount is, so we can make a more informed
We
decision
could do historic back 5 years.
and look forward.
Yeah.
In the workshop, I'd like to have explained the actual mechanics of collecting this, because it says in the municipal code that the use tax is collected at time of permit issuing.
Mhm.
So
This,
projects always go beyond their initial cost. So do we have a catch up on that?
no, all of your taxes on your construction and permit are estimated at the time of valuation.
Estimated. So I'm
Yeah.
curious whether we think we're actually collecting all of the use tax that are due to us on construction projects.
Knowing that there's a lot of building that is not permitted, I know you're not collecting, you should be collecting.
Yeah, just so in
Yeah.
the workshop, just the mechanics of how
Sure.
this is done.
We
But
can do
also,
that.
if I could add, trustee Lowell, someone will be renovating their basement, doing the work, some of the work themselves. They'll put a valuation of $15,000. The inspector gets there, it's clearly a $70,000 job and
He corrects it.
he will correct it. So if we're there and they're permitted.
If
we
it's
do catch it,
permitted,
yes.
we do catch those at the time of inspection. They will comment that, you know, this is not $2,000 project, this is much more
Okay,
significant.
just as long as we get there.
We have
we're not
that in
supposed to-
place, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would, and if we could, I know we've been in the process, reach out to the hotel developers, the 402 Main developers and Tebow
did.
and let them know about the workshop.
Sure, I will. I will
think-
certainly do
And
that.
anyone else who might
Yeah.
have an interest. Anything else you'd like to highlight here?
The only highlight is, of course, the Apple Valley Water Treatment Plant property. We did, close on that sale last week. And I shouldn't have put that proceeds were $350,000 because there were some other fees and, other fees and taken out. And the final amount, I was gonna give you that, is actually, oh shoot, where's it? 321. Let me find that real quick. I got caught up in that wind event right before our meeting. It was, here it is, 328,355,000 was the final amount. If you recall, we paid for a survey, we paid for, what else was on that closing? Realtor fees.
The realtor-
3% to the realtor.
That was 21,000, so yeah, those came out of that. So the final actual proceeds, we sold it for 350, the proceeds were 328,355. And then last, of course, but not least, there is the potential of a strong wind event on Wednesday this week, and I want to reassure the board that we are meeting both with the Office of Disaster Management for the county, as well as the local fire department, sheriff's office, public works, electric, to talk about plans if and when it would become appropriate to turn off the electricity in town if a wildfire sparks anywhere in the area. So we'll be putting out some communications on that. But it's also important to note that Xcel Energy is not the provider in the town of Lyons. Xcel is a gas provider in Lyons. Lyons Power is an electric provider. Poudre Valley Rural Electric is a provider, and Longmont Power. So it's important for people to know who their provider is, because they may not all be doing the same thing if that event occurs or a wildfire would spark. So we'll be getting communications out tomorrow on that to prep for in case of high wind and or a fire on Wednesday.
Thank you. Questions for Administrator Simmons and Trustee Lowell?
I'm just curious, have we had any further communication, either you or Planner Ritchie with Boulder County Housing Authority? We've got the two projects in town that they've got on their list. And there's been some radio silence now for a couple of months. Have they been in touch with us about anything?
On Carter Court?
Either one.
Either one.
You or Carter.
Well, they presented here and we approved accepting the AHT dollars. They have today, actually, the civil engineers were on site for Carter Court site. And Boulder County Boulder Mod, which is a modular house builder, came out and took a look at them as well. They may be interested in the RFP Boulder County's gonna put up. So it is somewhat moving forward. And I mean, they still plan to invest $750,000 at that site or elsewhere if appropriate. They also did reach out to another property owner in town, or I guess, that has a property for sale, to see if they had an interest in selling. And then the owner went into the hospital or something. So I think they are looking at other options too.
Would it be possible to have regular updates on the communication? Because I know that sooner or later we're gonna be faced with some hard questions here about what we can give them to make these projects go forward. So just so there's no surprises to.
Yeah. I think the next step was to get that civil engineer out there to confirm buildability and ideas for the site.
Right.
And that's just now starting, so.
Maybe would it be helpful to have Administrator Simonson include an item in her administrator's
Like
report?
once a month or once every,
I think monthly would be appropriate.
okay,
How's that?
Sure.
Okay, great. Trustee Hammer and Trustee Dodge.
Just on the calendar, are we having a Laura meeting?
we are having a Laura meeting. This Thursday at 5 p.m.
Okay.
And I know packet
I
should have
see it
gone
there,
out
but
today.
sometimes it gets canceled.
I had it down at the same time that we roll up.
Oh.
So I'll get packet out tomorrow.
Trustee Dodge.
I want to say kudos to staff for a really great holiday weekend with the tree lighting that got moved a week. I feel like we had a lot more participation and attendance, having it as a kickoff to the artisan market and the parade. And I'm just curious if anybody has any idea, we're tracking the number of shoppers over 2 days. I have no idea what kind of revenue was generated and what kind of sales tax we might have
No idea
received.
yet.
No idea at all.
No, not until they submit their sales. But I can tell you that, talking with vendors randomly, they said they had a very good weekend. Most of them said we made extra product this year because we are always pretty successful here. So, people went away happy. The vendors were pleased with their sales. But we won't know that until they submit sales tax, by the 10th of January, and then we will find out February or March.
I think it'd be cool to track that if there's a way to capture the vendors that were there, that we can just to see what kind of impact it has on our revenue.
Well, it's 100 vendors, so you
It's
have
100
to,
vendors.
not 100, 40. How many?
60, I believe.
60 vendors. We'd have to, yeah, find not only, I mean, Cassie could do that. But some may report quarterly, some may report monthly. It's just, there's some volatility there, but we can get a general idea.
It was good. I think it was good.
Yeah.
You might see a little uptake, in our overall sales tax report. Because I don't think there was much else in town that was.
So we should look for that in February, is that what you're saying?
Anyone else? I'd like to say kudos to staff for the document scanning project. I stopped by town hall and Clerk Vasquez and the deputy clerk and administrator Simonson were shoulder deep in papers, boxes of papers, getting them ready to be scanned. So it's a huge undertaking. We're very appreciative.
It is the clerk's office and they did send, they're getting ready, 5 pallets will be going out before the end of the month.
It should be this week. They're already wrapped in it and I've got to index them and then. let
So
them know.
5 pallets of documents and she started with those that will not be returned. So we just cleared a bunch of room in the storage area. So start with that and also rearranged all of the hard FEMA files that have to be kept. And those got rearranged and reordered, and we're gonna try to do a little extra protection on those since they're just really exposed. I mean, with not knowing if it could be 10 years or 15, we wanna try to preserve those a little bit. So we'll proceed after the holidays with the next 5 pallets.
Great.
Are there plans afoot to make the documents that can be public, like I can go on the town website?
And they'll be on the website, they'll be searchable, it's just gonna take a little bit of time to get there. It's a lot of paper, boy.
It's gonna wind up saving everybody a lot of time.
Yeah.
So this company will scan and then they'll go to the Laserfish company to be cataloged and tracked and to come up with that system. The searching system, because we have to decide that we search by address, by name, by topic, by keyword. And every time you add one of those factors, it raises your price. Yeah. It's a big job.
It's over.
Right, yeah.
So we appreciate what Jerry was going through and Monique was scanning over there, so. But yeah, 5 pallets are on their way.
Amazing. Okay, great. Attorney Dittman, is there a legal update?
No legal update. What I've been working on is in the executive sessions and then the closing that we finished this week. So we'll talk more in executive session.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. All right, we will move on then to many ordinances and public hearings tonight.
Oh, excuse me, there was a finance
I'm
update.
sorry, yes.
Oh, there's Lisa. Is Cassie on yet? Oh, she is. She does have a little, we do have a change in our financial trends for the first time. So Cassie, would you like to give your finance update, please?
Sure. I'll just update you on sales tax. So we collected sales tax through October, and the October month sales are actually the first month that we've seen a decrease over 2024. So we are starting to see the trend that other municipalities have been seeing with a decrease over last year. So that was about 5% decrease, brings us to 4.31% increase over last year, year to date. So we've got 2 more months to go, and we'll get November sales revenue in January and December in February. So I'll be able to report on those probably the second meeting in February. And then, you know, hopefully we did estimate about 4%. So hopefully we can stay right around that for 2025 revenue. But that's all that I really have to report.
Any questions for Director Eystone? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody go shopping. Okay, so now we'll move on to ordinances and public hearings. First is the second reading and public hearing of ordinance 1203. An ordinance of the town of Lyons, Colorado, approving the rezoning of 4651 and 4652 Ute Highway from the partial eastern corridor to PUD CEC. We're not gonna hear this item during this meeting. This item is on the agenda because it was noticed as a public hearing, and so it must have been, but new public notice will happen when this is ready to proceed. So that brings us to the second reading and public hearing of ordinance 1025, amending section 111011 of the Lyons Municipal Code concerning regulations for unreasonable noise.
And we have Director Ritchie online.
Director Ritchie.
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Trustees. I do have the same PowerPoint as last time if you'd like me to bring it up, just since this is a public hearing. We can go through that. So again, as we noticed or discussed last time, fairly simple given all the effort that we have put into the conversation to date. So we are considering amendments to section 101110 regarding unreasonable noise. The kind of primary change in the ordinance is to eliminate the restriction on amplified sound audible 25 feet from the source. And then some other, I think, more minor amendments related to distance and again, removal of the reference to good old days. So with that, we're recommending approval of the ordinance. We acknowledge that there may be additional work in the legislature over the coming years that may prompt us to revisit this discussion. And myself or Attorney Dittman, happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for staff at this time? Okay, then I will open the public hearing. Would anyone in the public like to comment on this ordinance? Okay, then I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Move the approval of the second reading of public, after public hearing of ordinance 1205, an ordinance of the town of Lyons, Colorado, amending section 11-10-11 of the Lyons Municipal Code concerning regulations for unreasonable noise.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Trustee Dashens?
Yes, I want to apologize to the board. I wasn't here for the first reading, which was held on December 1st. because I would have liked to have discussed how to include faulty equipment in this ordinance. And I had emailed Attorney Dittman as to where we could add that. I'm not sure if B2 is the correct place with the repair or adjustment of a motor vehicle, if we could also, and I'm not talking about repair of faulty equipment, so I guess maybe this would be a fourth under section 101110E, if there is a way of including faulty equipment, motorized equipment, or some sort of mechanical noise. Yeah, something to do with mechanical noise, so that neighbors aren't are actually able to get a good night's sleep. So I just don't think that we need to have mechanical noise disturbing neighbors between the hours of 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. And I know that this has been an issue in the past, and I know that the reason given was that there was nothing in the municipal code that spoke to mechanical noise. So I'd like to address that. And I'm not sure how to word that or where to put that, but I realize this is second reading, but I just wouldn't be able to fully support this without including mechanical noise.
And so are you offering an amendment?
So I would like to offer an amendment, but I would need help with wording. And I look to Attorney Dittman to see what he can propose here.
Attorney Dittman?
Yeah, I think based on my understanding of what you're trying to do, maybe a new B4.
Right.
And it'd be noise from a faulty mechanical device that is loud and continuing between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m.
That would be perfect.
I'd like to ask a question, Attorney Dittman.
Of course,
How do you define faulty?
I don't know. I mean, that's I think that's part of the we're struggling with is how to narrowly tailor that.
Could we, instead of saying faulty, could we say ongoing mechanical noise? Like, for me, it's like this consistent ongoing, like night after night, this mechanical noise that keeps neighbors up type of thing. So it doesn't have to be defined as faulty, but for me, it's like this consistent ongoing mechanical disturbance. It's a disturbance, it's an unreasonable noise if people can't sleep at night.
I don't know how you can determine that. What is unreasonable? What kind of equipment? If somebody's window's open, that could be an air conditioning unit kicking on in the middle of the night. It just doesn't seem enforceable to me.
Well, what I'm trying to address is a complaint that comes in after, like, let's say a week or more of sustained noise overnight from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. that's due to some mechanical.
We could also have somebody with an open window. The neighbor's air conditioning is going to kick on and kick off every night all summer. And I don't know how, I just don't feel like that's enforceable.
So you think then that we should keep the word faulty in place?
No, I don't think we should make any changes to it.
So what recourse does this resident have, or any resident who wasn't able to sleep all summer long because of mechanical noise?
Civil between the two parties.
Yeah, I don't know that that's a town responsibility.
Well, I promised I would address this, and I'm bringing it up now because I feel like it's important to some of our residents to be able to get a peaceful night's sleep.
I think it's important as well, and I also think that the laws that we put in place need to serve the entire town. And
Agreed, I think everybody
residents.
wants to sleep between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. And I also want to hold, I don't know, maybe we can't do this, maybe this is what I'm hearing, is that as a municipality, we cannot hold people responsible for faulty equipment. Yes, that sounds like what I'm hearing.
How do we know what is identified as faulty? A lot of things, again, I go back to the illustration that I'm giving. it seems to me that we're doing something that's not enforceable. I don't know why we would put something in the town code that we know is not enforceable. To me, that then we're in the same boat we were in before when we said, 25 feet from the source, which was not something that we ever were gonna be able to enforce. I have a hard time thinking that this doesn't end up being a problem later on. That, that it's a solution to a problem that for the most part does not exist. As far as I'm aware, there is a single complaint related to a single business that would be, that potentially would be affected by this. And in that case, determining what has caused that sound or what is excessive was not possible. It simply wasn't really possible or enforceable. So I think we're adding, what we've been trying to do is clear up the noise ordinance so that we have something that's actually enforceable. That does not feel to be enforceable.
I agree with Mayor Pro Tem on this. I don't think the town of Lyons should get involved in disputes between next door neighbors about whether air conditioner, heat or whatever is too loud. We had a neighbor that had a loud air conditioner for a while, but I wouldn't have thought it was the town's responsibility to deal with that. Particularly overnight, we're gonna send town employees out overnight to check sound levels of people's air conditioners. That's just not something that we can do. And I also agree that I believe this was prompted by a single complaint that's been made many times over the years by someone who has unfortunately overly sensitive, is overly sensitive to sound. And I don't think we should be making townwide ordinances to address particular resident sensitivity. We got people before who claimed that various factors were interfering with, from the they wanted to eliminate Wi-Fi in town hall and the library because it interfered with their particular sensibilities. And we said, sorry, that has that effect on you, but it's not something we can legislate townwide. And I think this belongs in the same category. I don't think it's something that the town should be legislating.
Trustee Hammer, you had your hand up.
I did not,
You did not.
but tend to agree with the Mayor Pro Tem on the logic here, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. I'm kind of interested to see where that discussion went up. Eventually
Well,
got to.
we don't even have a second on the floor to discuss. I mean, we're in the process of, trustee Jati deciding how she would want to word an amendment that she would like to propose.
And if I can follow up on the enforcement piece, I see there are several here that refer to unreasonable noise between the hours of 10 PM and 8 AM. So I guess I question then if we're wondering how to enforce in the middle of the night, then how do we enforce it for these other three?
Probably the sheriff. In those situations, I wouldn't send a sheriff for an air conditioner.
So trustee Jati, if there is a specific amendment that you would like to propose, we can see if it gets a second and then have a discussion.
No, I don't see why I would waste the board's time if there's no support for this. So I will let it go. Rest.
Is there anyone else who would like to offer an amendment or discussion?
Quick discussion that I've reviewed since first reading with, I guess, 3 different outdoor music venue owners, and they were all pleased with this elimination of the 25-foot rule and believe that the resulting ordinance will be sufficient to deal with the outdoor music in town, and they all pledged, as they have in the past, that they will work with neighbors and others in town to try to make the level of sound acceptable. So I think it's got support in the business community.
Good. Okay, well, it feels like the sort of a stopping point in a very long noise ordinance road. That may restart depending on what the legislature decides to do. But I will call for the vote.
You have a motion?
Yeah, we have a motion. Do we?
Yes, we have a motion.
Yeah, we have motions.
And motion passes unanimously.
Everybody? All right, second reading and public hearing of ordinance 1206, amending Article 4 of Chapter 13 of the Lyons Municipal Code for the purpose of increasing service rates for wastewater utility service by the Consumer Price Index.
Thank you. This is the second reading. It's been talked about at a workshop and first reading. To increase our wastewater rates by 3.6%, which is the Colorado. Oh, this, trying to remember now. You know, it's the state, what's the term?
State demography. I'll tell it to you once I was trying to pull up the ordinances as we were talking.
Planning
So
and Budget Office,
Yeah.
planning budgeting
recommendation.
office. Yeah.
The consumer price increase for this area
Office of State Planning.
of 3.6% for 2026. So for the average residential customer who's metered, your current monthly rate would go $25.20 to $26.10.
Any questions for staff on this? Okay, I'll open the public hearing. Mr. Johnson, would you like to speak at the public hearing?
No, thank you.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I move the adoption of ordinance 1207, amending Article 7, Chapter.
We're on.
1206, excuse me, ordinance 10 Lyons, amending Article 4, Chapter 13, Lyons Municipal Code. For the purpose of increasing service rates for wastewater utility service.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on this? Would just ask that staff, as I know you will communicate this to our residents, so people are aware.
I would add it on the wastewater utility. This has been in the code for many years. It's not something new.
Yeah. All right, I'll call for the vote.
And that motion passes unanimously.
Second reading and public hearing of ordinance 1207, amending Article 7, Chapter 13 of the Lyons Municipal Code for the purpose of increasing the service rates for the stormwater utility service by the Consumer Price Index.
This is the same situation of a proposed increase of 3.6% to the monthly rate of $10 that is charged for our stormwater utility fee. This stormwater enterprise was formed in 2018 and the $10 rate was set then. It has not been increased since then. So we've had 8 years with no increase. And a 3.6% increase would take the rate from $10 to $10.36.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? I'll open the public hearing. I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I move the approval of ordinance 1207, an ordinance of the town of Lyons, Colorado, amending Article 7 of Chapter 13 of the Lyons Municipal Code for the purpose of increasing service rates for the stormwater utility service by the Consumer Price Index.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yes. I'm gonna support this because like the wastewater utility, the town essentially runs its own stormwater utility. And unlike water and electric service where much of our cost is dependent on third parties from whom we obtain water and electric power, we're in charge of our own utility here, and obviously we have increasing costs from year to year. So I think an inflationary increase, particularly since this fund has not the amount of this fee has not changed since 2018 is appropriate for this particular fund.
All right. Anyone else? Call for the vote.
Can I ask if there's any interest in, I mean, there were a couple of different options proposed. One was to raise it by 3.6%, another one was to raise it by 5%, another one was to raise it by 10%, which was an extra $1 a month. So I'm just wondering if there's any interest in raising it more than the 3.6% inflation.
I think this was actually on first reading, that was proposed. And it did not get discussed to move further, so we presented it on second as it was presented on first.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Some of the discussion there was that we may be looking at a need to increase the stormwater utility rate further to fix
after
the
we know.
culvert that's in danger of collapse. We don't know yet if we'll be getting a $250,000 matching grant for that. If we do, we may not have to increase it anymore. If we don't get the full $250,000 grant, there may be a need for a further increase. So my suggestion on first reading was let's wait and see what happens to that grant request, which will be done in the spring, I think, and see after that if we need to raise it further.
Thank you for that
It
explanation.
says, Willis, and I believe you said, tie it to projects, people understand project costs versus just arbitrary.
Inflation control.
Thank you for that.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll call for the vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Yep. Okay, next we have second reading and public hearing, excuse me, of ordinance 1208. Amending articles 2, 3, 4, and 7 of chapter 13 of the Lions Municipal Code for the purpose of setting utility service rates and charges by resolution with a public hearing.
Thank you. This is the second reading and public hearing that would amend the code to allow for utility rates to be amended not by resolution, by ordinance, but by a resolution with a public hearing. It did move forward on first reading, and I think that's all.
The only other thing to note is that the electric changes to incorporate the special requirements for the electric utility. I thought it was just better to put in the code so people wouldn't forget because they're unique and that people often do forget them, I find.
Thank you. Questions for staff? I'll open the public hearing.
Good.
I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I move with approval of ordinance 1208 and ordinance of the town of Lyons, Colorado, amending articles 2, 3, 4, and 7, chapter 13 of Lyons Municipal Code for the purpose of setting the utility service rates and charges by resolution with the public hearing.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
I just know this has been discussed in the past. The Utilities Engineering Board is in favor of this. They believe it will streamline somewhat dealing with rate increases that happen from time to time, or decreases if that ever happens. It makes it easier to adjust our local utility rates to things that aren't within our control. And I think this is a good streamlining step for our rate setting process.
I do not hear the word streamlining happen very often in this room. So anything that does that, I think is a great idea as long as there's a public hearing.
Yeah, and I think, in the past, the argument against this has been, we need to give people as much time as possible. So I'll just reiterate that when should this pass, when we do change a utility rate by resolution and public hearing, that we schedule it on agenda so that the community has plenty of time to respond, should they want to. Okay, I'll call for the vote.
And that motion passes unanimously as well.
You. Moving right along, second reading, public hearing of ordinance 1209. Amending chapter 16, article 11 of the Lyons Municipal Code concerning wireless communications facilities. Attorney Dittman.
Thank you, Mayor. And so this is about complying with a state statute that passed this year, HB 25-1056. That piece of legislation made the regulations around wireless communications devices from the federal level much worse at the state level, and further restricting our local authority over siting wireless facilities. And so part of the proposed changes is purely a technical compliance perspective with the statute, particularly around shot clocks. The second part of it, though, is kind of more important, at least from our perspective, in that the law did not provide a bunch of much clarity onto what type of permits can be required when certain types of facilities are deployed. Special types of deployments called EFRs, eligible facilities requests, arguably do not require any permits under the way this legislation was drafted. And so this change makes it clear that any type of deployment, including eligible facilities requests, require the same basic health and safety permits that any other building or device would require, regardless of the status of an EFR. That way, the town have some regulatory oversight of these devices, because otherwise it would not be able to, because effectively all land use powers have been stricken, at least with regard to those facilities. So that's a very high level overview, but this is mostly a compliance ordinance with HB 25-1056.
Thank you. Any questions for Attorney Denman? Okay, I'll open the public hearing. And I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I move the approval of ordinance 1209, ordinance of the town of Lyons, Colorado, amending chapter 16, article 11, the Lyons Municipal Code concerning wireless communications facilities.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote.
And that motion passes unanimously.
Okay, and our final public hearing of the evening is resolution 2025-83. Rescinding resolution 2025-82 and levying general property taxes for the 2026 budget year.
And Director Eystone is here.
Great, Director Eystone?
Thank you. We, as you may recall, approved resolution 2025-82 at our last board meeting. The following morning, I was notified by the assessor's office that there was an error in their final assessment. So we have to take this back. We have to rescind the first resolution and approve this current resolution before you. The correction reduces the allowed mill levy by 0.101 mils for a total mill levy of 16.569 mils. I will note that there is no change to the revenue because we already had the restriction. So it just decreases the actual mills that we will be levying for 2026.
Thank you. Questions for Director Eystone?
Just on the air, if I recall right from last time, their initial calculation was that the property values had dropped by $800-something-thousand, and now they increased by $361,000.
That's correct. It had to do with the state portion of the valuation.
And so this wasn't just Lyons, it was
Right.
County, the entire county, right?
is my understanding.
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll open the public hearing, last chance.
I'm good.
I'll close the public hearing and entertain a
I
motion.
move approval of resolution 2025-83, a resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, rescinding resolution 2025-82 and levying general property taxes for the 2026 budget year.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Also.
Any discussion? Okay, call for the vote.
And that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Before we move to the consent agenda, is there anyone who would like to recuse?
I will recuse myself from the vote on the setting and individual votes on any items that are removed from the consent agenda. From the vote to approve the consent agenda and potentially remove any items from it. And I will recuse myself from any items removed.
Okay. Attorney Dittman, is that sufficient?
I think so. So is your intent not to vote on any of the consent items or just that one? It sounds like you're not voting on any of them, but I think which would be appropriate.
That is my preference.
Okay.
Okay. So if you'd like to should trustee Williams step out while we do?
According to
consent
our
then?
rules, he must leave the room until this is over with.
Let's go get another
More
cookie.
cookie.
Take your vote. No one's, they don't count on board meeting dates. Thank you. Clerk Vasquez, will you please read consent into the record?
Yes, item 1 is resolution 2025-84, a resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, approving the renewal of professional services with the Adams Group LLC to perform 2025 financial audit services for the town of Lyons. Item 2 is resolution 2025-85, a resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, providing for additional appropriation during fiscal year 2025 for unanticipated 2025 revenues and expenditures required of the town of Lyons, Colorado. Item 3 is resolution 2025-86, a resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, accepting a strategic fuels mitigation grant from Boulder County. Item 4 is resolution 2025-87, a resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, approving a third amendment to a development plan agreement between Colorado Lookout Lyons LLC and the town of Lyons. Item 5 are the December 1st, 2025 regular Board of Trustees meeting minutes, and item 6 are the December accounts payable.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Anything anyone would like to remove?
Yes, I have a question about one account payable item, so item 6.
Item 6, okay. And I would actually like to remove item 3 for just a very brief comment. Can the record reflect that trustee Dottie?
Sheila,
I
stepped away.
She stepped away, so I'm not sure she'll be voting in consent. Okay, if there's nothing else, let's vote on consent as amended.
And that motion passes unanimously.
Trustee Browning?
And there's an item for payable to Highland Ditch for $6,171. I believe that relates to the St. Crane Trail.
Yes.
I know we did prior payments to Highland Ditch. I've been track of for a while. What's this last big one for?
This last one was, I remember, unless Director Eystone has it handy, it was for the final engineering services regarding the crossing, but it gets reimbursed by Boulder County. But she's here, or maybe she has it in front of her. Director Eystone?
That is correct. You are correct, and an administrative fee with that.
Oh, engineering services and administrative fee.
But Boulder County is paying 100% of that.
Yes.
Correct.
Boulder County reimburses 100%.
Okay, thank you. I would move approval of the accounts payable then.
I'll second that. Any discussion? No, okay, funds payable.
That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And I pulled resolution 2025-86, which is a resolution to accept the strategic fuels mitigation grant from Boulder County, just because I feel like it needs to be highlighted publicly that kudos to town staff. We have now doubled our budget for strategic fuels mitigation. And I think that's fantastic. So thanks for the hard work on that.
Yeah, it's really about leveraging different grants that are available out there. And we were a little hesitant to ask for that, but we had 40,000 planned. And so by asking for this grant and receiving 40, we will have $80,000 to spend over 2026 and 2027. So if we have trouble spending all that in 1 year, we do have a 2-year cycle to spend that in. If you guys approve accepting that grant tonight.
Another question.
Yes.
Victoria, so does this grant, will it allow for ongoing mitigation, in other words, maintenance and mitigation that we've already done?
Yes. So you mean in regard to like goats and things?
Like the South Ledge Ditch Trail, as an example.
Yes.
In another year, it'll have to be done
Yes.
again.
No, it is, I did talk with Director Cosgrove about the plans for 2026. And, I don't have that list with me, but it is, continuing on a couple different open spaces that need, addressed, and then revisiting, we're kind of starting the new goat cycle again.
Okay.
Because they recommend every third year, so it'll be that, as well as, you know, if we need to pay for continued limb pickup, that can be budgeted, or if we come up with another large project like we did this year with the Martin parcel. So we can budget and plan for that, each year now, so the next 2 years. If you'd like to see the list that they have planned for 26, I'm happy to send it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I will move to approve resolution 2025-86.
Second.
And that motion passes unanimously.
All right, how do we feel about taking a break now for 10 minutes?
Sure,
Good?
sure.
Good. Okay, let's take a 10-minute break and then we'll come back to boards and commissions.
So.
That's enough time for, Luke.
You're not muted, by the way.
He's been watching the whole meeting.
That's, I'm looking to being in person.
Dolores, you're not muted.
Oh, sorry.
We have Attorney Dittman back.
Maybe not.
Oh, it's just 10 minutes now. There it is.
There it is. Okay.
Bye.
Great, we'll get started again with boards and commissions. It is my great pleasure to appoint Luke Vasquez to the Student Advisory Commission, and I look forward to hearing about his fantastic ideas. And Anush Amirjanyan to the Student Advisory Commission, with my apologies if I mangled that name. And next, it is also my great pleasure to read a proclamation in support of Bee City. And if you open your drawers, you'll find a surprise.
Shades of.
Mark?
Shades of John Belushi, huh?
And since our communications person is not here, I mess if I don't get a picture for her. Okay, look at you guys all participating.
You have
That's
two,
awesome.
I believe.
Oh.
Oh, they're right there on the cabinet
I'll
around.
take the picture.
No, I'll take the.
No.
Here we go, here we go. Scoot, lean in.
Thank you.
This is to acknowledge that our application for Bee City went through and we are now a certified Bee City community.
Everybody buzz.
I have a short proclamation to read, and then you can take them off.
Can we keep them?
Yes.
I think I want these. Who's running for reelection?
You are now.
Whereas bees transfer pollen between flowers, enabling the incredible diversity of plants on our planet to flower and fruit. And whereas pollinators are a keystone species in virtually every ecosystem on Earth, enabling the reproduction of over 85% of all flowering plants and 67% of agricultural crops. And whereas there are more than 20,000 described species of bees globally, and around 3,600 species of bees are native to the United States. And whereas not only bees, but butterflies, moths, beetles, flies, wasps, bats, and hummingbirds also contribute to pollination. And whereas research has showed significant declines in native pollinator populations and ranges globally, with up to 40% of pollinator species on Earth at risk of extinction in the coming years due to habitat loss, the use of harmful pesticides, and climate change. And whereas Bee City USA provides a framework for communities to work together to conserve native pollinators by increasing the abundance of native plants, providing nest sites, and reducing the use of pesticides. And whereas supporting pollinators through Bee City designation can help foster community engagement and environmental awareness and sustainability. Now therefore, I, Holly Rogan, Mayor of the Town of Lyons, Colorado, do proclaim that Lyons, Colorado has been designated as an official affiliate Bee City USA by the Xerces Society. The Board of Trustees urges all citizens to support our town's efforts to protect our native pollinators and take measures to assist in their proliferation.
Yay.
And I would just add that some communities who are Bee Cities have a designated pollinator week. Where they do different activities, hand out gardens, that kind of thing. So maybe in the future, that's something the board could consider.
I think the EAB is eager to start some projects.
Okay, great. Now you can, unless you want to keep them on.
No, I was just gonna add, that presentation, that PowerPoint, I thought was very informative. I shared it with a bunch of people, and I think I mentioned this before, but Leaf got this grant from CDPHE, and it's a part of it's a pollinator garden establishment at the Leaf building. But the pollinator gardens are only successful if you have contiguous ones. I forget how far. So anyway, so I think working with the EAB and trying to strategically figure out across the town where we can enlist people to do that.
Absolutely.
Okay, for sure.
Great.
So we will be starting one at the Leaf building.
Thank you for participating in that, everybody. All right, so let's move on to general business. Our first item is resolution 2025-88, a resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, approving a development agreement for the property located at 402 Main Street.
Director Ritchie.
Director Ritchie.
Good evening again, Mayor and trustees. So tonight we are here as a follow-up to the resolution of approval for the development project happening at the 4th and Main Street intersection. As you recall, that original approval required, had a condition of approval related to execution of a development agreement that will do a number of things for the town, but just to summarize, this is an agreement, a contractual agreement between the town and the developer. And the scope of the work for under the development agreement assumes, oh, excuse me, sorry, I had a button here. Assumes that the project will potentially impact the public sidewalk on both frontages of the property. So it just acknowledges that the developer will construct the improvements, warranty the improvements, must kind of make sure that they are in a condition agreeable to the town prior to receiving a certificate of occupancy, terms of the warranty, etc. So, and the cost estimate for such scope is approximately $25,000. However, they'll be responsible for the actual cost. We do have Mr. Paul Tamburello, applicant for the project at 402 Main, here to answer any questions, and I'm happy to answer any questions as well.
Great, thank you. Are there questions for Director Ritchie or Mr. Tamburello?
Going. Will this result in at least some electric service lines being underground that aren't now?
Yes, I know, we're still working through the final design. Paul, or do you have an update on the latest on that?
I do not. In speaking with Mr. Kaplan, they're still debating whether or not to underground the lines and do a transformer that's pad mount, or keep the pole mount transformer and do the lines overhead for now. I do think that the building to the west, if it is sold and there's a development plan for that, would precipitate that change during that process. But I think for right now, it's unclear with the utility where it's going to end up.
Yeah, I understand it's doing that might affect more than one property. I just wanted to see what direction we were headed in there, because we're trying to do that wherever we can. So
I did talk to the owner to the west recently, and she also agrees that it should be underground. She's the one that needs to provide the easement. And so, for the potential purchasers of that, she's making them aware of that. And yes, our opportunity would be, if there's a development agreement with that property, to also make that a condition if we want to. But I think everybody in the area after the fire would love to see that go underground. But it would be on an easement on private property, so it's not included in this public development agreement.
That's correct.
Any other questions? Okay, then I would entertain a motion.
Move the approval of resolution 2025-88, a resolution of the Town of Lyons, Colorado, approving a developmental agreement, a development agreement for the property located.
Is there a second? Okay. And discussion.
no holes is a good development.
It's a good start.
That's right.
Mr. Tamburello, I just want to say thank you so much for working with the town on this project. We, I think I can speak for the board when I say that we're thrilled that you are the ones developing it, and it's so great to see the progress that's being made. So thank you.
And yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you. We're excited to be, moving forward. We still have some work to do before we can really start to go vertical. But at least all the footings are going in and the hole is filled.
Yes. Yes. Okay, with that, I'll call for the vote.
And that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Everybody. Congratulations. Another step forward. Okay. Next is discussion direction on the sauna concessionaire RFP.
Thank you. This was actually requested by the board, by the staff. And Director Mitchell is here to help us walk through this. After your last meeting, you directed us to move forward with an RFP. And we have been working on that, but have come across a couple of constraints from what that particular group wanted to see. So we wanted to get direction from the board. So both Director Ritchie and Mitchell are working on this project. I don't know which of you's taken the lead to start.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm happy to take the lead. So in your packet, we have 5 questions that we're essentially looking for some answers on, and getting BOT direction for. We believe we can prepare an RFP, but based on the feedback we had 2 weeks ago, I'll do a summary of our questions. Number 1 is staff feels like Bone Park would be a better placement for this. And the reason we say that, we understand certainly that the folks would like people to come through town and go to Laverne Johnson, but there's really not a space for it there with water, sewer, and electric without being in the campground, which essentially is residential. And it has that kind of feel, especially in the winter when we have longer term guests there. Currently, we have 8 long-term campers at Laverne Johnson. So that was one of our questions. I think if it's okay with you, I'll just run through them all. We also need a 2,000 square foot footprint is our understanding. And so between Lisa, Director Cosgrove, and myself, we kind of think that the area really close to where the Bone Park host is would work. We have questions on hours. As you know, our park hours are open dawn to dusk. When we reached out to one of the vendors who spoke with you, it seemed like maybe a deal breaker for them if they could not go later into the evenings into 9 o'clock or 10 p.m. I think, so we wanted some direction on what your thoughts were on that. And also any thoughts on opening earlier. And then the seasonality of it, for example, our tube rental concessionaire, Ray's River Rentals, is seasonal. He comes on board, starts around late May, depends on the water levels. And then his season ends. And so same thing, staff, when we were talking about this, felt like as we get really busy in mid to late April with all of our programs and courses and classes and everything happening on the river and then in the parks, we wanted to know what your sense was there. The other question was the fee structure. You may or may not recall, but Ray's River Rentals, the first year they paid a monthly fee and then went to a daily fee for when they're open. And then restroom impacts. We just weren't sure how many people will be coming and how you wanted us to put this in the RFP. We certainly have ideas on it in terms of any increased impacts to the restrooms, and especially if it were to be open beyond our closing times that we currently have. So I think those are big questions. Director Ritchie, if I missed anything, feel free to chime in.
Can't think of anything else. Thank you.
Okay. So I think with that, if you all could want to discuss and ask us your questions, then we can probably get some guidance to put out an RFP.
It's not this week.
Thank you. Thanks very much for putting this together and giving us these questions. I think from what I understand, the folks who came to speak to us, they would prefer Laverne Johnson Park, or they're saying if they can't get Laverne Johnson Park, that they're not interested.
No, the facility they had out east, which is now gone, and what they wanted to put at Laverne had a 2,000 square foot footprint. And they want Laverne just from ambiance, traffic, all of that. But we had heard from some of the neighbors where it was previously held out east that it was pretty loud into the late hours. And we didn't feel that was a good fit for the RVs there that are paying the fee to be there. As well as it would have to, we would not be able to have a turnaround in Laverne Johnson Park if this was placed there. And I feel strongly we need to have emergency access to that park. So we aren't writing this for them particular, you know, we're trying to write this for anyone to respond to because now that 2,000 footprint is gone. So it really is, they have not said it was a make or break. I mean, that I know of, it's what they wanted for that unit, but Director Ritchie, they've now moved that.
Yeah, I think the one item that was probably the biggest opinion or request they had was the hours of operation. And Kim, I think that so I think that was the one that I think they really requested kind of a second consideration on. I don't know that any of them were deal breakers per se, but I think that was the one with the strongest reaction.
They want early hours and late hours,
So they want before dawn?
possibly.
Okay, well, why don't we start there then? How does the board feel about hours for the RFP? Trustee
Can we
Hammer?
talk about noise first, because I think that ties into the
Sure.
right. So you said, and we're talking about, this was Paul Tamburello's property. And it was
The
neighbors around there were complaining.
There's a couple,
Like 3 houses across the room.
no. Oh, well, no, and to the east.
I mean,
There's
because it
several
just seems
houses,
to me,
there's people living there as well.
okay,
They
So-
said it was late with,
I mean, so if we put it in Bone, but I agree not putting it in Laverne, but we put it in Bone and all that noise is gonna,
well, or we
Area.
just say, no, you know, we don't wanna, we can't hear you outside the footprint.
Yeah, you're gonna get complaints from LVV if you put it
No,
there.
but that's further away than the RVs.
Oh,
Yeah, that, than LNJ.
We're talking about noise from people.
People noise.
right,
Not drinking.
No, I don't know that it was drinking. I maybe so.
No, I'm just being facetious.
I don't-
He said it was,
Yeah.
he was targeting the non-alcoholic aspect of
Well,
it.
he was, that's a gathering place for people who don't. I don't know if they allow it for those who do. I don't know how that worked.
There's no alcohol use in the park unless you.
I guess we need to put that into our FP, no alcohol use in the
Yeah.
parks.
Yes. Do you trust Johnson?
Well, considering we just approved ordinance 1205 here around unreasonable noise under section 1011-10 B3 specifically says a gathering of persons engaged in loud and continuing activities,
Mhm.
continuing for a minimum of 15 minutes between 10 PM and 8 AM. So I feel like if we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot, then maybe we need to have a cutoff at 10 PM for sure. Just
But it's-
otherwise, this is gonna be impossible to enforce.
But at this time of year, it's dawn to dusk, and so they want people to be able to come after work and things, so they want 5 to 10. I think they want it open all the time, but 5 to 10 is one of their highest
So I
participants.
would
And the-
definitely not go past.
The seasonality aspect of it, what months do they want it here?
The winter months, we've already lost some, but it'd be January through April 15th.
January through.
Well,
For
and
now.
I think similarly, staff is asking for direction on, not for a particular vendor, but when we write the RFP in general, is how long should the term be for? So should we say, you know, if we were to get it on the BOT agenda for January 5th, it would go through, you know, can we say April 15th, April 20th? We're less comfortable going into May,
When does the high season for camping start?
May 1st.
May 1st for camping.
And then we have all of our programming, meaning softball, baseball, rec programs, mountain biking.
Maybe we should say, when do the park hosts arrive back?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. In Bone, they're there about May 5th-ish. And in Laverne Johnson, the second set of hosts is usually there by the 10th to the 14th.
So we were suggesting April 15th
April 15th.
as time to stop and be out by the 30th.
as far as possible rent, you just put out an RFP and they would give a proposal of what they're willing to do.
Well, we need to give the parameters of the RFP so they can submit it, because if it doesn't work for them, then they won't submit.
I mean, are we gonna suggest, should we suggest a minimum rent, or are we gonna open it basically for bids?
Oh, that's up to you. We can write it either way. You can say the lease cost would be this, or we could say, if you decide you wanted a daily or a monthly, you know, is that, I don't know if the water is metered at that site to be able to meter that they have to pay for their water, or we want to base it on an approximate amount? But your feelings,
Where would they, what tap would they use, from the
It-
restrooms?
at Bone Park, no, the park host has a water, sewer and electric, but not at Laverne. They don't have that.
I don't have any problem with the extended hours, but my only question is, if it's early in the morning, who's gonna open up the restrooms? Late at night, who's gonna close the restrooms? The RFP should include
Yep, these are all things,
janitorial costs for restrooms.
these are all things that when, it sounds good when we hear what they want to do, but when you get into the details, there's a lot to work out.
I also have some misgivings about considering siting it next to the park host area. I mean, you're gonna ruin the grass, basically.
No, in the park.
In the
host.
park host area.
In
while
the
the
park
park-
host.
while the
Is
park
that a
host is not
2,000? Is
there.
that a 2,000?
No, that doesn't meet 2,000, that's, yeah, but it can do about a 1,500. That was just this one unit.
Yeah.
Other units that have been interested were only 14 feet by 8 feet.
Okay.
It depends what they want to propose. And that
I would
one
think a monthly rent would be a lot easier track than the staff having to keep track of them, having to report, the staff having to keep track of what days they were there or not.
But let's start with, can we get through one, can we
Yeah.
either go see, can we get to discussion on one topic?
That's what I was trying to do.
I know.
Okay, so let's start with location. How does the board feel about Bone Park versus LeBron Johnson Park?
Oh, yes, or no.
Same.
Okay,
We're
So-
okay with Bone?
so
For the
Bone Park
majority?
it is.
Okay,
I think it's unfortunate because I think it would be a nice amenity at Johnson, but if it mechanically, technically doesn't work, then let's try Bone.
if it was one small unit that fit in 2 parking stalls maybe, but the size they wanted,
Well, I also think too, from a staff perspective, if we're thinking longer term, like going into winter 27, we would be able to close the sites in advance, but we just can't do that now, so we agree in terms of having folks in Laverne Johnson, but it just would really displace the current makeup there of the long-term guests who have reservations through April. And so maybe we could put it as Bone for a start, and if it works out, that we would consider, with BOT support, moving to Laverne Johnson, and just like how we close Laverne Johnson for the leases during the festivals. So that way folks know in advance. It's not like we're moving them around. So that might be one way to handle that, Trustee Williams.
So then the term for this RFP that we're talking about would run through
January through April, whatever.
January 2026 through April 2026.
And then we will see how it works and decide if you want to make this a regular.
Okay.
I think that's I
Yes.
think that's an important footnote to all of this, is that this is an interesting experiment in how all of this works.
Mhm.
And I will have the same thing to say about hours, and I'll have the same thing to say about rents. And the more experience that we can get in the first round, somewhat conservatively,
Yeah.
the better informed we'll be about what to do, if anything, next year.
Okay, so let's talk about hours then. Pro Tem?
I think 8 to 10.
Eight.
I don't think we can move away from the. I think the sound issue, is an issue, particularly in the co-housing there. And I think I don't see how we could move in Any other? Anything beyond that,
You mean 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.?
8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay.
And I would say 8 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Hmm.
Honestly.
Yeah, I got no
In
problem with that.
consideration
I
of
just don't think
neighbors.
beyond 10 is not possible.
What do others think about the hours?
K to 10 is fine.
Others?
I'm okay with 8 to 10. They probably need that to make it profitable.
Mr. Darcy?
I'm okay with 8 to 9 or 8 to 10.
8 to 10 is fine.
Mr. Williams?
I would have been open to earlier in the morning. I think there is some value to having something like this available early in the morning, and it strikes me that it's less likely to be noisy at 6 a.m. than it is at 9 p.m. But I'm also fine with mirroring the hours that we have in our noise ordinance, which has some elegance to it.
Another thing we could try, if the board wanted to, we could write it for 9 p.m. On what, school nights, for lack of a better word, and 10 p.m. on Friday and Saturday, if that would
Yeah.
feel.
I actually agree with trustee Williams on opening it up earlier, the thought to open it up earlier. I see the elegance of mirroring. But I also agree, it's not gonna be noisy at 7 in the morning
Or 6.
or 6. And I think, enabling residents to take advantage of it before they go to work is attractive.
There's a very active group can't move it, that means at 5:30, I think, yeah.
It's like 5:30.
I know it's right here. I could see like the CrossFit people wanting to go there after, and they meet really early.
Mhm.
So what are we thinking?
I would say 6 a.m.
6 a.m. to, do we want to say 9 p.m.?
9 p.m.
Monday.
weekdays, 10 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays.
Okay,
Are we good with that?
Sure.
Okay.
and for this year, seasonality, whenever we can get it awarded through,
April 26th is what I have written down.
but end in April 15th, so it's torn down by the end of the month.
Well, if the park hosts come on May 5th, how much time is needed to prepare for the park host arrival?
It just depends if there's any damages to the site. Things just happen.
What would staff be comfortable with?
We were saying April 15th.
April 15th, okay.
And we
So
could, I'm looking, maybe the 19th is a Sunday, if that helps, and then they'd be out on the 20th.
So April 20?
Mhm.
Gives the extra weekend.
Okay. April 20? Right,
I'm good with that.
fees, should they have a fee? Should they not? Do you want it to be cost only? Do you want, what do you want there?
I think we should absolutely charge them rent. I think the reason that we charged Ray's River rentals daily was because they didn't know when they would be able to be open because they were dependent on flows. So, what do we charge for an RV site at Laverne? I'm thinking in terms of like per square footage charge, if we can extrapolate.
It's roughly about $65 to $67 per
What?
night for an RV.
Is there do you guys do a weekly rate?
Yeah.
We do, it's about 300 in the off season.
And that's to cover water, sewer, electric.
No, I think I'm not sure if it's metered there or not. I'm kind of down it.
I will have to check on that. I can't picture a meter on that tap.
I don't think, yeah, it's just bigger.
Unless it goes through the overall park meter, that's what I don't know.
What would they need water for?
Because they're running, a sauna and, hot tubs, and they're putting water on the hot stuff every fall. every 5 minutes.
Well, I don't know, is it an infrared sauna? If it's an
No.
infrared sauna, then they don't need
No,
water.
well, it
Is it
depends what it
wood
is. We don't know. Again, we're not building this just for that group.
Right.
So
So-
it can be all sorts of different things. But if you have a hot tub component, and they had showers built in to their facility,
Where's the wastewater going?
down the wastewater. That's why you
Do
need,
they need a connection?
but there's one on the site there.
What about the electric requirement? I wonder.
It's the same.
It's just a 120?
No,
yep.
we have a 30 amp and a 50 amp over there.
Grievance.
Who pays for that?
I think that we should set a fee to cover all of the utility costs and whatever staff costs would be. Basically, they cover the town's cost, water, sewer. Yeah, and we got everything on top of that, because otherwise we're just using town owned space to support a for-profit business, which is not really what we generally do. I think they ought to cover all the costs in the form of a fee. That's what fees do, when we cover our costs. Then I think we gotta have a minimum rent, which I think the mayor made a good suggestion, base it on whatever the equivalent rent would be for Laverne Johnson Park spaces.
The question that I would have is how is staff to estimate what the utility costs would be?
I mean, we could do a temporary meter possibly, since this is a trial. But again, not knowing who it's going to get awarded to and who's even gonna bid on it. We don't know what the type that,
So you could put a temporary water meter and electric meter at the site?
probably.
I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't an electric meter there. Probably is, but I'm not sure about why.
I don't know without Aaron here.
Yeah,
We've
But we
always
can
had
certainly
issues
find
with-
out.
We've always had issues with metering the water that went into town parks. We don't track it all. We may track. the
We're
park as
making
a whole.
progress on it. We do it as a whole, yeah.
I think for the purposes of the RFP, it might be safe to say that, just to make it clear that the respondent will be responsible for actual utility costs.
And would they also be responsible for opening and closing the restrooms?
Well, that was, another point,
Because somebody has to
If
be awake at
needed.
6 AM.
If needed. Again, some of them have it built in.
It's cold. For the
Yeah,
bathrooms.
there could be a temporary code for their guests.
Mhm.
The other issue, because this is in the off season, is snow removal. We don't typically plow Bowling Park.
No, I think it's up to.
It's a-
yeah,
it's
it would be,
last-
it would be up to them.
Which,
If they want snow removal, yeah. So what I'm hearing is definitely needs to cover utility costs. How do we wanna think about a lease fee on top of that?
Yes,
Mhm.
Because the fee at the RV park covers the utilities.
Right.
but the RV campers are not for-profit companies.
No, I totally agree. I just wanna make sure that's.
Limited usage.
So I would suggest that, that staff calculate a fee based on how big the RV spaces are and calculate a per square foot fee for rent.
I would do a fee to cover the cost and then rent above that, separate those out.
Yeah.
Fee to cover the cost and then rent based on.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Sorry, I misspoke.
And-
Rent to cover
And I would
per square
actually,
foot.
just in case there are competitive bids, I would say a minimum rent of, based on that, and if we have 2 or 3 bidders and somebody wants to offer us more rent, great.
And if, I think the rent cost could cover the maintenance costs, the restroom maintenance costs,
If needed.
if needed, like if the per square foot usually covers utilities at Laverne and.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna have, if they're gonna do the, close into the restrooms with the code, we're gonna have to have the town employee spending that time, and I wouldn't think there would be
That's right.
that much additional help.
Yeah, especially when it's after hours. I mean, we have staff that go by and check at dusk and dawn, dawn and dusk, but not at 6 AM and 10 PM.
And what about insurance?
Well, so we did put that in, we would require all of our standard agreements and contracts and all of that stuff, indemnifying the town. All of those agreements would be standard.
Okay.
And our attorney would review it.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think, we need to make it clear that their guests would have to abide by the park rules, including no alcohol.
Mm.
No smoking. All the park rules.
Right, it's not gonna be as fun as it. Okay,
I have one other suggestion too, based on what we do with short-term vacation rentals, and that the lessee would designate a contact person if there are noise complaints, who would be responsible for, and maybe even a backup. To be responsible if there are noise complaints, we know who to contact and they're responsible for.
a local, yep.
Yeah.
That's great.
Anything else? I think I'm looking at the questions. I think we covered the questions. We didn't. Are we talking monthly rent? Was my understanding, but I just want to make sure that we're all in agreement on that.
What do you said we do weekly at the Learn Park?
We do a weekly, long-term rate in the winter.
Okay. That would make sense to mirror what we do there. Their suggestion there was correct.
Well, but if they,
Kim, do you have a monthly rate? Or only weekly?
For RVs, we only have a weekly, but when we've done an RFP before, we did start with monthly when we did the tubing concessionaire, but then we actually switched it to daily. And I guess I see both sides, if there was weather or something and it was closed, do we still want to do we want to manage that or not? I think the weekly fee seems to really make sense. Just, we know how many weeks there are in a winter or in a season, and
how many months there are too. Why wouldn't we just do monthly and make it simpler?
Well, in case they don't start till
that's-
mid-January, and then yeah, in prorate. It's really, the only full month will be February, March.
Well, I think whatever is easier for staff, as long as the
Okay.
math works out.
Okay.
thank
We did
you.
have- Yeah, and I did find one can sleep in there.
No one can sleep in there, no.
No, I mean, it can't be a residence. I mean,
Yeah.
people try all sorts of.
Oh, yeah.
Because, some of the really big units do have areas to sit and lounge. Because then if someone was sleeping there, then we can't have a 30-day lease, or they can call it their residence.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
maybe we will go weekly.
Do we want to specify that someone from the company needs to be on site at all times? To actually do the running of this? I'm not sure.
I don't know if
What the business models support for that.
my understanding from Director Ritchie is that they can buy like a membership and they have a code. So you can go in when you want to. It's kind of like a fitness club.
I would require them to specify whether that's their model or not.
Yeah,
And we can take it into account when we compare bids.
thank you. I appreciate that. What I would be concerned about is someone going in there who doesn't know how to operate the unit, and if there's actual fire in the unit and it's not infrared, then seems like a dangerous situation.
All of those we've talked to are wood fired.
So then they would have to be an employee of the company.
I would think they would keep someone there.
You would think, I mean, that's a nice piece of equipment to take a chance on.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say they need to specify their model of
Yeah.
supervision and oversight.
Great.
Safety
Director
plan?
Mitchell, is there anything else? Any questions we haven't answered?
No, I took copious notes, so thank you very much for the feedback. That really helps give us some direction so we can write a solid RFP and get some questions answered in case there's more than one qualified bidder.
Great, thank you so much for your work on this.
Okay, thank you all. Good night.
Night. Okay, last general business item is discussion direction on the workshop with Boulder County Assessor. It was great to have them here. It was enlightening to hear about their workflow model. And I think what I heard was that regular check-ins between town staff and the assessor's office will be helpful.
Which we do. I mean, Aaron and Doug talk every couple of weeks. Our issue is more, what do we do at the local level to enforce, since they aren't basing it on zoning, they're basing it on use. How far do we want to go with enforcing zoning that's not accurate based on their own reporting? I mean, they're admitting that by reporting to the assessor, it's 100% residential in a commercial zone. How far do we want to take that and what mode?
I think I'm the one that asked for that, and my focus was on the revenues. That there are obviously some revenues that weren't being collected that should have been collected. And what I took away from their procedures and timing and everything is that it would really behoove us to stay on top of if we know of a new large scale commercial building or even a very pricey house that has gotten certificate of occupancy. We need to let them know so that they can get it on next January 1st. Property rule, because I don't think they've always done that. And obviously to stay on top of things that we know are misclassified, but the issue of how strictly do we enforce our zoning laws is a much broader issue. You get into selective enforcement real quickly. There's 6 or 7 things like that, and then you go after one, why don't you go after the other 6? That to me is a much broader discussion.
In my interest also is revenue producing. If it is clearly gonna be producing revenue, then we need to be informing them and getting it done as quickly as possible. Outside of that, I don't know how we do that.
And considering there are a number of empty storefronts now, creating more empty commercial space at this time doesn't seem like it would be beneficial to anybody.
Well, what's interesting is the commercial properties that are vacant are paying their commercial rate. But we have full buildings that are being used residentially that should be generating commercial rates. And not, so 2 different issues there. And all we require is the frontage to be commercial. We don't.
We lost into that. I'd like a better understanding of how many properties we're dealing with, because that will tell us what kind of enforcement.
I think it comes and goes. If you recall that 401 bank building for many years was being used as a residence.
It was.
But when we would approach that with them, they'd say no, then we'll have an art show, and they would just open an art gallery for a couple weeks. Do you remember that?
I remember.
And they would figure it out, but in some cases here, there's no attempt to do that at all. And I think those should be, I mean, I think they need to get a formal letter of zoning. And again, it doesn't have to be big, it can be a 10 by 8 space in the front room, you know, it doesn't have to be big. But if they're admitting to the assessor that 100% of the building is residential, to me, that's their own admittance. We're not going after, you know, it's not picking and choosing. Now, if they're not being honest, that's a whole nother issue, but I do feel like we've developed a pretty good relationship between with Mr. Wright and with Assessor Brad herself. I feel comfortable reaching out to her directly. And I'm actually hearing that they're moving the commercial component to Mr. Wright, I think is a good move. Yeah, he hasn't always been our contact till recently.
So does the board want to take any action at all on the workshop?
I think it'd just be to direct staff to basically keep close track of misclassified properties in terms of use. I understand the zoning thing's another issue, but also to keep close track of when basically certificates of occupancy are issued for either residential or commercial building. And follow up with Walker County to make sure that when those should be put under contractual, that they go under contract.
Yeah, and I think what's happening is they get our monthly report of building permits, but
I'm not
it's at
sure
their
they're always-
end, they have to then put that into their system,
I
but
just think it's something that the town staff can track and it would produce enough revenue to justify the town staff time to do that. If there's a new $1.5 million house that a CO got issued in September and it should be under tax roll next January, to be able to make sure in January that it's there. But I'm not sure, in theory, it should happen because of the permit, but I don't think in practice it always has. And I think we've lost revenue because of it.
Is there a way to get an annual or semi-annual report to the board about maybe not, the details, but just about actions taken?
well, I will have to assign like if we're sending them our permit report monthly, I'm gonna have to assign it to someone specific then to follow up or check this. As you just heard, it sounds like activity really only happens January, July, right?
And the
So-
website's not always up to date.
We're probably talking 2, 3, 4 buildings per year, mine's at most.
On building permits?
I'm
Oh.
super curious to know how many.
No, we issue,
There's a lot more.
no, there's a lot. How many dollars?
Utility purchase.
Oh, Lisa's still there. Lisa.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, so in terms of building permits, my understanding is they'll, if you do a basement remodel, they're gonna look at your assessment, right? Any sort of improvement. So it's not just new buildings. So,
How many permits do we?
this, go ahead.
How many
Probably
permits-
8, I think we issue, approximately 100 building permits a year. How many of those would result in an increased valuation? I would have to do some research on.
Probably not worth the time to track every single little addition. We might have come up with an idea of setting a floor based on what the amount of the permits are that over, I don't know.
A percentage of the
50,000,
house.
Something, yeah. like
Yeah.
that.
And my thought process is, aren't, how do we make more work for staff, but how do we enable staff to hold the assessor to account to make sure that we're getting the correct valuations?
Well, I think Lisa and I will work on process here. And if we have a permit that is substantial, and we'll define what that is, that we do a follow-up email directly to Mr. Wright.
Okay.
And just make sure it's on his radar so that when it does get updated, if it doesn't show up, we will have an email saying we made you aware of this. But they kind of made it clear they don't go retro.
Yeah, let's do that very clear.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about consistent and fair practices, and it bothers me that one property may have to prove storefront, their zone commercial, and the other one doesn't. I'm just wondering what we're planning on doing to make it fair and consistent across the board. From one property to the next. If it's all residential, then why are they?
I'm not suggesting that we direct that now. Maybe it's something we should look at. As to what's the scope and how strictly do we want to enforce our zoning laws? I think that's a very different question than making
Yeah.
sure we get the revenue.
And the reason that one came about was it was a sale of the property and a change of use. So we were made aware of it. The other one has been used residentially since before my time, long time.
I would like to know how many properties are in similar situations.
That we're aware of.
Yeah.
I think we're only down to a few, but yeah, I'm happy to.
Anything else on the workshop? Thank you for arranging that.
Sure.
Bringing them in.
Sure.
I mean, it gives me great hope, the fact that Assessor Braddock came and also brought 3 staff members. I think that's great.
Yeah, but I think
It's
part
been
of the
sign of
problem
partnership.
in the past is things have been brought to their attention and they just didn't go anywhere.
Right, yeah.
I know that the 304 main thing was brought to their attention years ago, but it never changed.
And I did make clear to Assessor Braddock, she did not, have to attend herself, but she said, I want to be there to support my town.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that the fact that they showed up in person, as numerous as they did, and they saw how serious we are taking this and how closely we're watching our budget, I think that they will pay extra close attention to Lions from this point on. That's what I'd like to believe. At least for the next year, maybe. And I like that we're in close contact with them. I think that relationship is important.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right, let's move on to trustee reports. We'll start on trustee Williams's end.
We had a BCDC meeting by virtual meeting last week. Primary agenda item was a discussion of natural medicine zoning and other restrictions or requirements. I think the general sense of the commission and Planner Richie, if you're still with us, feel free to correct me or to add color, either one. My sense was that they generally wanted to rely on some precedent or some other jurisdictions' plans as they began to think about what we would do here in Lyons. And that they would, once they had those guidelines, then they would make modifications as they saw appropriate. So for example, when the state says we as a guideline might suggest 1,000-foot buffer between natural medicine and say schools, then rather than dream up their own number, they would start at 1,000. And then they would make modifications if Eastern Corridor or some other neighborhood either did or didn't make sense. Similarly, they would think of natural medicine first in the same way that they would think of any other medical office. And then they would make edits based on whether security was needed or different hours were needed, or the number of patients coming and going differed from a typical medical office. So anything that they could hang their hats on that someone else had already decided for them, they were more comfortable with than allowing their personal views about how natural medicine might differ from some other kind of business to drive their decision making. They stopped well short of making decisions or even recommendations on any of that, but those were their most obvious sentiments.
Thank you. Trustee Browning?
The UEB met on December 3rd. Couple of things they discussed. The first one doesn't really directly relate to Lyons, at least right now, but both Chairman Kerr and Utilities Director Kaplan went to the Municipal Agency, Energy Agency of Nebraska annual meeting. And one of the things they reported back is that Mean is finding it harder and harder to do new electric generation projects, wind and solar projects in particular are now in disfavor in certain orders. And that was where what they were using to build their primarily their renewables sources. That they still do some hydro as well. So they just noted that's a problem for me. One of the things Mean is doing to address that is they're going to try to increase the potential reserve payments, I call them, to some of their member entities for excess capacity. At one point, we talked about doing a battery project in Bow Park.
Yes.
They would have produced a solar project with a battery. If you do that, you get reimbursed for Mean if you're able to provide on-demand power to the Mean system. I don't know that ours would have done that, but they're going to start looking at increasing their capacity payments to some of their members to try to, because they're having trouble building new plants. Something else too that will probably be coming to the board at some point is one aspect of the time of use rates that we're going to go to next year is that there is no automated system to track the what is owed to and from our legacy solar power producers. Those of us who were fortunate enough to be on the board when we had people that had put in early adapters on solar, rooftop solar, were getting reimbursed 1-to-1 basically at the retail rate. And we changed that where they now they get reimbursed at the green rate, but we compromised and basically gave them, I believe it's to the year 2030 to keep getting, their argument was, when we signed on to this and invested our money in this, we expected a certain, payback rate of return on this. And if all of a sudden you cut off our reimbursements, all of a sudden, we wouldn't have done these rooftop solar systems that had been ruled. So we did a compromise of those things sunset in the year 2030. But when we do time of use stuff, what they produce in terms of power, the revenue that they generate, and what they consume in power has to be manually tracked by town staff.
Right.
It's time intensive. This can't be done automatically under the system we have. And so there was a discussion about coming up with some type of estimate of what those costs would be to town staff and basically charging those as a fee to the legacy power users. Not trying to make money on it, but basically, if you're gonna keep your legacy power and we're gonna have to track it manually, that's not something the other ratepayers should have to, or town taxpayers should have to pay for. That we may come up with the best we can estimate a fee to cover that administrative cost. So no suggestion right now, and something Director Kaplan's going to work on, but that's being discussed.
About how many legacy customers are there?
I think there were 30, but Director Kaplan is looking, because one provision we put in that agreement is if they sold their property, it's not transferable to the buyer. So he's looking to see how many of those 30 may have been sold, but it's a maximum of 30.
Right. Thank you.
May I ask a question before we move on? What did Mean attribute being the most difficult for expanding their renewables? Why?
I don't know. I wouldn't know. I'm just kind of relaying that. I guess supposition on my part, but
Federal laws?
the president doesn't like windmills.
No, but I mean, is that what they're, is that
That's
what?
part of it. They're having trouble getting the financing together for new
Financing,
solar
that's
or
federally.
wind projects. I'm not
All right.
surprised in this atmosphere.
No, I'm not. I just
The
wondered
regulations have been changed.
if they said why, what has made it more difficult?
You'd have to ask Jim or Aaron about that.
All right.
I'm not surprised.
Okay.
Thank you.
Apology and Parks and Rec both canceled the December meeting. But on another note, I sent out the first communication for annual report submissions. I need to get together with Kim and start the handoff process.
Yep.
I've been cherrying not doing that, but I will get a hold of her and sit down with her for a couple hours. That's it.
Thank you. Trustee Johnson?
Yeah, the Student Advisory Commission was not able to obtain a quorum on December 4th, so I'm thrilled that Luke and Anush have stepped up to join the commission. This means that if somebody is missing due to their very busy schedules, we can still hold a meeting. So basically this week, I think December 18th, this Thursday afternoon, we'll be holding a short meeting to kind of make up for the December meeting that we could not hold. Instead, it was more of a discussion and workshop and kind of finish some training. And I just want to note that of the 6 commissioners, 2 of them are international students studying at the Alliance High School. And I think it's really great exposure for them to see how youth can also have a voice, because in their communities, in their countries, this does not exist. And so
They're very excited.
it's very empowering for them to see what is possible. And you know, this model is possible here, so thank you for providing that option to them. The Arts and Humanities Commission met on December 9th. There was a pretty lengthy discussion around the proposals for the municipal flags. This will be coming to the Board of Trustees on January 5th. And basically, they have narrowed it down to 3 artists, and it basically goes back to their initial proposal from last summer. And so I think what they would like is for the Board of Trustees to decide which artist best represents Lions. And so that we can work with them going forward, or the Arts and Humanities Commission can work with them going forward and kind of make some adjustments. So we'll be looking to you for your advice going forward. And I have a question regarding the Creative District. I saw a recent communication, I don't know on behalf of who, but basically stating that Estes Park had recently celebrated their designation as a creative district. And I was wondering, should Lions plan a community celebration? Is this something in the works? Is this something that we should discuss? Is there
It would be up to them, I
funding
think.
for this? I mean,
I think that will be up to them. I don't know that they feel they're quite ready. They don't have their
Right,
board
right.
very well situated in their projects going out, so. Possibly, but I think that would be up to the Lions Creative District now.
Right. Well, and from what I hear, I know I missed the last board meeting, I did, read the presentation. It sounds to me like they're having trouble funding their executive director, so I feel like they can't really get off the ground until they've hired an executive director, so.
I'm gonna be meeting with them, but they are, their current lead is very busy with trying to open a business, so we'll be waiting until after Christmas. So I'll be working closely with them, try to identify some funding streams,
Okay.
or leverage existing funding streams, or reconsider their priorities for 2046, or all of the above.
I had some feedback, the people, the two ladies who came to present couldn't quite hear the discussion in the video stream
Oh,
afterwards, and so they weren't sure where the board had landed on funding, I wasn't here. So I couldn't really speak to the discussion.
I did have a conversation.
I'm so glad that you did.
Yep.
Because I think that they would really love to move forward and until they've hired this executive director and they have funding to do that then. So yes, I agree. The community celebration probably will happen after the hire of an executive director once they get funding.
Yeah.
I feel like there are a few steps for that. But I was excited to see Estes Park celebrating and I thought, oh, we haven't talked about that. That's all. Trustee Mike.
SFC met last week. Most of the discussion was around the work plan for 26. And then we had an attendee from the EAB, right? Johnny Thomas.
John Thomas.
Yeah. So it was actually very enlightening to have somebody from the EAB. He got a lot out of it, and I think we encouraged him to attend more often, kind of be a liaison between them.
He did ask if he could serve on 2 commissions at once, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we have an opening right now, but he's gonna attend anyway, so. And then, on future agenda items, now that we have our noise ordinance all sorted out. I still think, we heard throughout that road noise, vehicle noise is a big problem. And one of our prior meetings earlier on noise, there was some discussion about, and I can't remember if somebody had sent us an email about potential tools that you could use to capture decibels and read license plates and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I think it'd be interesting to have some future discussion about, is there anything we could do in that regard?
About,
Road traffic noise. People don't do, the Harleys that Lee's riding.
I need to get the sheriff's office.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not sure what the.
See that, yeah.
It sounded like some municipalities were looking at some technology to assist in that area, so.
Be interesting to look into.
It just seems like that was still a big problem, and it's really outside the control of our noise ordinance.
Sergeant Christus said that's just really hard to do.
I figured it is, but I think if we can do a little research and see what others are doing and learn from it.
Maybe there's something.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so my report is that the Housing and Human Services Commission met. The meeting was a visit with Senator Janice Marchman to talk about the potential funding cuts in the next session of the state legislature. It seems like an unfortunate reality that Medicaid is going to be cut. And the legislature has some really tough decisions to make. The CML Executive Board met, similar related topic. And we discussed the potential legislation upcoming in the next session, and there's a lot. There's a lot of work ahead. Nothing has been introduced, obviously, because the legislature is not in session, but people work on bills all year long. And then I attended the Consortium of Cities meeting. It was about business development in Boulder County municipalities. And the Broomfield council member, was talking about Broomfield's Business Week. They have 1 week every year that's dedicated to helping their businesses. So I said, hey, I kind of want to know more about that. And Director Mitchell and I got on a call this morning with the guy in Broomfield, the step member in Broomfield who heads it up, and had some interesting conversation. Of course, I don't think we could ever do a whole Lions Business Week, but we could maybe do a Lions Business Day or potentially afternoon. It might be something to take to the EBC where the model they have is they survey their businesses and say, hey, what do you want to know more about? What do you want to learn? What would help you? And then they construct information sessions or classes out of that. So might be interesting for the EBC to take a look at. And that's all I have.
Can I ask if that's similar to the shop local on that Saturday? There's a Saturday after
The Small Business Saturday.
the small business.
Yeah, no,
that's
that's
similar?
totally different.
This is for education to the business. owners.
Yeah, this is giving business owners, you know, like,
Okay.
they
It's
said
similar, but
some
converted.
business owners, like, you know, people who were wanting to start restaurants wanted to know how the restaurant inspection process worked.
Okay.
Like nuts and bolts kind of stuff.
We had-
And then also marketing was a big ask.
Okay.
At one time, we had the economic gardening group, John O'Brien did that, but it was done through the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, and that's the, so we talked about the SBDC and different methods of funding, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Okay, I'll ask for a summary of action items before I ask for a motion to go into one more executive session.
All right, item 1 from the workshop, the county is to research the number of permits for 2025 that have been reported. It was also asked if the 317 Evans project could be used for Proposition 123. Next, I have staff to work with Matt North and Phi on potential projects, including the Expo and Beyond Words. Next, I have the mayor ask that every second meeting in December, if the sheriff sees a man in a red suit speeding through town, it's offered and supported to that. Next, I have workshop, future workshop on use tax increase with historical data. What other municipalities are doing, projected data on hotel, explain mechanics of collecting this. Also notify Mr. Tebow, 402 Main, and Mr. Tamburello, and any other developers when the workshop is scheduled. Next, a monthly update to be included in the admin report on the Boulder County housing projects. Next, the board would like to make sure that we communicate rate increases to residents. Then we had ordinances, ordinance 1203 to be renoticed for public hearing when ready. Then ordinances 1205, 1206, 1207, 1208, and 1209 passed on second reading. There was a request for a potential pollinator week in the future after we become the bee city. Staff was regarding the RFP draft. They received board direction on location, hours, fees, and business model. Next, I have direct staff to keep close track of misclassified properties, COs that are issued, and follow up with the county. Also a request to find out how many properties are in similar zoning situations. Then a potential future agenda item on road vehicle noise, and a potential Lions Business Day to include nuts and bolts and financing.
The only thing I had was a little extra education to the public on the increased rates.
Brandon, did you have anything?
Nope, nothing additional.
Okay. Terrific, thank you. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
I move to go into executive session pursuant to CRS sections 24-6-4024B and 24-6-4024E. For the purpose of determining the position as relevant for matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators, and for legal advice from attorney representing the town regarding a property dispute concerning 0 Stickney Street lines.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And that motion passes unanimously. Brandon, I'll send over a link in just a second.